Eating this until I know I'm live. Hi, you're with Scott, I'm Super Chuffer. Hi, you're with Scott, I'm Super Chuffer. Hi, you're with Scott, I'm Super Chuffer. Hi, you're with Super Chuffer, I'm Scott. Hi, yeah, I think we're live now. 1, 2, check. Chuffy, come on. Hi, you're with Scott, I'm Super Chuffer. It's midnight, it's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear. This is mono. You can see me in chat. Say hi, Steve, Redfan, Smarty Hearty, Shirley, Tallulah, Andrasta, big ups Blank Faces. How are you all doing? I'm doing this live tonight. Like, obviously I don't have a very strict schedule, do I? But I'm jumping on this one tonight because a bit of interesting new data to show you on the Nicola Bulley case. Let me just quickly scroll down to this map. A bit of interesting new data to show you on the Nicola Bulley case. We're going to be looking into some of the backstory from the video that, of course, I uploaded recently, Nicola Bulley case solved. We've talked that we're going to be looking into this backstory, talking about this supportive content. And tonight's episode is going to be focused on this guy, specifically. We're going to watch the animal protest news videos that I sourced the material from. The link for that is in the description below if you have trouble finding that video. The link for the videos that I source in the videos that I upload, the serious ones, you know, the edited one, just like the Nicola Bulley case solved, will be in the description below. So if you're looking for the videos I used for sourcing that, they're in the description below in that video. We're going to be reading this article. Okay, I'm going to read a bit of news, but this is news from 1995. Would you trust this man with the sheep? And it's specifically talking about Richard Otley, the sheep trader who was the man who was in the news, in the lorry, in the Land Rover getting shaken about. We're going to look at that. We're going to read the news about it. And we're going to look back as well on the Battle of Brightlingsea. Here I've got 56 photographs presented by the Malden Standard, sourced by the community, it seems, looking back across that. So we'll be looking at that. And as I say, I've got a really standout piece of new data for the Nicola Bulley case. So that's what we're doing tonight. That's what I'm doing here. It might not be the longest Super Chuffer episode ever, and some people might say, oh hey, hang on, what's this got to do with Nicola Bulley? Well, as outlined in the Super Chuffer for You video, in the Super Chuffer video, as outlined here, I believe there's some connection with the deeper history, and I think that Nicola Bulley, her plight might be connected to the behaviour of her father and the other people in the industries that he was operating in. So, is this the sheep stuffer? Maybe. We'll look and see. Where to start tonight, though? So to start tonight, like I say, I believe most of you would have watched this video, so I'm not going to be playing extensive cuts from it, yeah? But to start tonight, I'm just going to bring up this. So this is from Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Super Chuffer. And this is somebody else, not me. You want to go out? Go on then. Go on then, Paul. And they've put this tweet out today. So I put in all the locations that people have gone missing in around. I mean, I don't know what their name is. It's just some shapes. But at Celestial Monks, I put in all the locations that people have gone missing in around rivers recently. So they've done this, I haven't. You'll have to check this yourself. As you can see, there's a picture of it. They've listed all the places on the left that link up with apparently Gaynor Lord, Lucy Charles, Nicola Bulley. So they put it in on the Google Maps. They put in all the locations. Tell me why it's all concentrated around one straight line. It looks like it's very close to the motorway. Fuckery is afoot. Sorry for the swear word. That's what they've written. Hashtag missing Nicola Bulley, Gaynor Lord, Lucy Charles missing UK. So I just bring this up on the screen. And as you can see, this is Great Britain, and we're starting up over here in the top left, St Michael's on Wye, Blackpool. And this, I mean, I'm assuming someone's gone missing over here, which is Wales area, on the border of Wales. And then obviously there is that motorway that comes down here, and it goes through Birmingham or around Birmingham, and then on to this area of the world. Now, I don't know if this person's seen my video, but this area of the world is where I made that video, the Battle of Brightlingsea, the connection, Nicola Bulley solved, the history, the animal protests, you know, all that. So that's over here. That's Norwich up there, just north of it. So it does seem to draw, like if you were to draw a rough line from this area over here down to this area over here, you would be talking about a route, you know, a route across the country, wouldn't you? And it's interesting, very interesting to me, of course, based on what I brought out in this video, you know, what I said in this video, Nicola Bulley case solved. Very interesting to me is that it could be argued that this end of the country is where drugs come in across the Atlantic. And traditionally, I've been aware that Ireland, Liverpool, the ports on this side of the country, the shipping lanes from the Atlantic, you know, South America, the places where drugs originate. I'm talking about the bad drugs, you know, the cocaine and stuff like that. You know, they come from over that part of the world. They ship them across to here. Of course, they could land in southern part of the UK, they could land in Europe, but it's quite common and known that ports like Liverpool have been used by organised gangs to smuggle drugs. Yeah, I mean, I'm not blowing the lid on that, am I? That's not like new news, but it would be interesting to me to see that if it did come in, like people said, well, no one's going to ship drugs out of the UK, they're going to ship drugs into the UK. But if you had one big consignment coming in from the Atlantic in this end, and then it was distributed and shipped from essentially into Europe, these ports here take things north and south to Amsterdam, to the Netherlands, across to sorry, I was going up there, it's over here. It's over here, isn't it? The Hague and Rotterdam. They can go to Amsterdam, the Netherlands. They can go to Calais and France, and that's a shipping route across to Europe there. So that's why they were using it for the live animal exports. These ports here, that's what's all about the Battle of Brightlingsea that we're going to be looking at today. In the 1990s, I'll just quickly go over it for anyone who's unaware, but I'm not going to go over it heavily, but in the 1990s, in 1995, we didn't have Brexit, we joined the EU, and what happened was that it became much, much cheaper to slaughter animals in Europe than it was in the UK, and it was easy to move them because we didn't have to do all the checks and, you know, you're just all part of Europe now, you can just cross the borders, remember that? So what they did was they started moving the animals into Europe to slaughter, and before they had done that on the UK, you wouldn't have seen these trucks with all these animals being driven around and driven through. It wouldn't have happened so often, but suddenly it was big news, big trade, big business. And at that time, the main ports down in the south there, Dover, they were a big port for footfall, for human traffic, for not human traffic like although some people might suggest, but like, you know, they were a big port for holiday makers. So they said, we don't want this animal export, there's all these bad things connected to it, it's a new business and we're not interested, we've not been doing a lot of it before and we're not going to be doing a lot of it now. So they sort of banned live animal export in those ports for those reasons, and they had to shift it, and they moved the live animal export up the coast here to these ports over here, and that's the exact area of the world that Nicola Bulley lived when she was growing up. It's all in that video that I dropped, of course, and you can zoom in on the map yourself and have a good look. It's all in the same part of the world. Nicola Bulley's dad had a trucking company, a freight company. Again, I'm not going to go over this over and over, but that's the backstory here, isn't it? Nicola Bulley's dad had the company. I think he was driving the truck in this video. They're going through the protest to stop the trucks going across. And what's it all got to do with Nicola Bulley in today is that Earnest moved up here, over here, and started up another company, which it looks like a trucking company. You know, we might look into that a little bit. Actually, we should look into that today as well, shouldn't we? So I'll quickly show you that. I'll do it now. I'll just quickly show you now while we're talking. Earnest Bully's new company, Essex Freight Service Limited, is, you know, Essex Freight Service Limited. This is his company, yeah? But it's listed as other business 74909. Other professional, scientific and technical activities not elsewhere classified. You're right, new hobby. I'm here. I'm chatting to you. I can see you. You're right. You're all good. Everyone having a good time in chat. I'm delivering some super chuffer research here. We can have a bit of a chat. And we'll watch some videos and chat a little bit. And, you know, we'll chill. Other professional, scientific and technical activities not elsewhere classified. So my personal question, or a question I have, is what does that mean? What does that even mean? And it's hard to nail this down because there's lots of different things it could mean. let's just quickly reject or confirm my choices there. Agents, franchisers, consultants, brokers. I mean, there's all sorts of things it could mean. There's loads of sections. I'm not going to be able to nail down exactly why they've chosen that as their nature of business. It could be that what falls under that category could be something to do with animals. It could be what falls into that category is something to do with the shipping papers, and that you could be what's considered like a, in inverted commas, a fixer. I need to get my trucks across the border and I need the right papers. Well, this company can sort that for you, maybe. You know, that would fall under that category. But if you do look at Essex Freight Services on the internet, you know, if you want to Google them, then they do have their own website, and it does look very much like they run a trucking company based in Lancashire, operating through the UK, offshore islands and mainland Europe. 24, 48, 72-hour journeys, tracking available, family business, answering the phone. So it looks like they're running a trucking company. So I don't know why it's not listed as, like, you know, under that, whatever that would be. But it's listed as nature of business, other professional, scientific and technical activities not elsewhere classified. So Earnest Bully moved after the Battle of Brightlingsea and all those animal protests. He moved his family across the country over to here and started up this new business, and it looks like he's involved in haulage. He certainly used to be involved in haulage. He was, as it said in my previous video, he was the director of a company that was involved in haulage, and all the business in this area at the time that was big business was the animal export. But if you were a haulage company, suddenly there were a lot of people looking to ask you, can you move my trucks fulls of things, animals, across the borders, please, for me? Thank you, John Main. Thank you for the 99 super chat. Thank you for the 99p super chat. 100. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I haven't shouted out my coffee link actually today because it seems an oversight that I always forget. But yeah, I've got this coffee link, so if anyone wants to drop me a coffee, it will read it out on screen, and I get the money. Thank you. I get more of a cut from coffee, but everything is appreciated. I do appreciate it. We do have members content on this channel as well. I will be dropping more in the future. So if you do fancy becoming a member, the link to that will be somewhere on the channel, somewhere under one of the videos, and there'll be extra bits of content there. And it really, for the long-term sustainability, memberships, you know, I feel like if you're going to renew that every month, and I can see that happening, it feels more future-proof than the randomness of the generosity of the tippies. But I do absolutely appreciate the generosity, so thank you. Right, we've got that part of the story. We've seen that in my video. You know, I've made those links, and I've also questioned whether those same transport links could be used to transport drugs across the border. And now, you know, whether there's some sort of black market operation, some clandestine operation that Earnest was involved in, and when they want to threaten him and when they want to come at him, his daughter is not like, to the bad people, Nicola Bulley is not like, let's pick Nicola Bulley because she's done this and she's done that and X, Y, like, she might just be Ernest's daughter, if you know what I mean. So that's my feeling on that. I've outlined that in that video, and today what we're going to do is look into the backstory a bit of that, where I got the original spot of this guy driving the truck. We're going to watch that video, and obviously it's going to come up, this guy Richard Otley. So then we're going to look into the details and the backstory of Richard Otley a bit more, especially this article, which I found that's very interesting. And we're going to look at some more photos from the past. I'm sure you'll all enjoy them. And as I said, this is the link that, I mean, I'd like other people, I say this all the time, I said it on the big episode, I think this is not, as Scott solves the internet crime problem, Scott's not going to win the internet by solving a crime. This is a community effort to try and find out the truth behind what's going on. Yeah, so there are questions I will not be able to answer, but I encourage the rest of the internet to try and help and put forward. And there's some people in our chat today who represent channels that do that, and I'm very grateful to everyone else who, like, sometimes people call people snowflakes as a derogatory term, but you realize that a million snowflakes together form like an avalanche, and you realize that, you know, one little raindrop doesn't make the storm, but without each individual raindrop there would be no storm. So we need the winds to blow, we need the the rain to come. It's about a group effort. Big ups Unity Calling. Thank you very much for becoming member. So yeah, I've said that now, and I've done that link with Earnest and the haulage. This is an important, interesting piece of evidence, I think. Celestial Moonks tweeted it. I just saw it today. I don't know them or anything, not connected. I just decided to follow them today because I saw them tweet this, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. You would have to check yourself, and they have listed on the left-hand side. It's just cut off by my screen here, but they've listed all the places. Station Road, Bangor on wire. St Michael's on wire. Norwich Cathedral. Thetford, the River Lent. Iron Bridge and Gipping Stowmarket. So they've listed the places that they've connected, and I encourage you to do your own research to make sure that is all correct. I trust that those places are the locations that people have gone missing recently, and you would probably want to check that yourself and not just take it from Super Choffer, but that looks very interesting to me, and it's going to support what we're talking about, so I'm going to highlight it. Also, I should mention, big ups Big Chris, the Vigilante Gang thing. I should mention the things as well. The reason I feel they were so quiet on those interviews, and the reason why Paul came across as so deceitful, is that I think they all know a bit about what's going on, and they don't want to tell the police or the public. So there's been this multiple layer in the campaign to try and find her. Can we have her back? Give her back. But don't grass anyone up, and don't say you know too much. I think there's been a bit of that, in my opinion. And Peter Folding, of course, being on the video as this is not an episode about Peter Folding, but Peter Folding being on the this video as dressed in police uniform, in my opinion. I say in my opinion, what do you want me to do about video evidence? That, in my opinion, connects the idea that Peter is part of the people that push through those exports. They push through the trucks, they make sure that things happen, and they remove protesters and the protest breaker. It's all connected. And for Peter to have known Earnest back in the day, because I would have imagined there would have been a group meeting about how we're going to get these trucks through and how the policing operation is going to go, and Peter Folding's private protest breaker company, and the head of that company might be in the room with the head of the truck driving, the director of the truck driving company, and the police, and they might have had a chat. I'm surprised if he's doing this job and Earnest is doing that job. They hadn't met each other in 1995, and it would seem that he suddenly turns up on the Nicola Bulley case a week late, maybe to put pressure on Earnest, maybe to manipulate the whole thing. Maybe Earnest brought him in, or maybe he told Earnest he was coming. I don't know. That's a different connection for a different, deeper conversation for a different day. Today is going to be about the protests and would you trust this man with the sheep, Richard Otley. So it's a big community effort. There will be more content from Super Choffer. I have got more to say, and there will be future supportive episodes of this video, future content, backstory, stuff I've been researching, stuff I've been finding, more episodes, of course. It's not going to be the Nicola Bulley channel, but we will continue. So let's go back, first of all, to these Brightlingsea animal protest videos. Some of this is going to be a bit difficult to watch, but it was critiqued that some people couldn't find this original video, which is linked in the description below of the video that I dropped. So linked in this description below is this, and I thought we'd watch this. It's 10 minutes. It will give us an overview, some things to talk about, and then we'll read the article, we'll look at the old pictures, and we'll be concluding an excellent and interesting episode of research on Super Choffer. Thank you very much. Andras de Wolf, I definitely agree they know more. It's what they don't say. Exactly, yeah. We will be reviewing some of those interviews again with all this, but first of all, I want to, it's one thing for me to make a video. I'm waffling now. I'm doing my chuffing. It's my show. It's one thing for me to make a video and give you the bullet points, the highlights, and expect everyone to put two and two together. But it's another thing for me to show you all my work and research, and I think that this is part of it. I'm not the biggest worker and researcher out there. There's going to be a few holes. I could have done maybe a bit more, but that's the community can help. So yeah. Let's have a look at the Battle of Brightlingsea. That's where we're going to start.
And to the government to act quickly, urgently, to end the live animal export trade entirely.
1,000 people took part in the protest, which was largely peaceful.
It's interesting to me that Eddie Vinylbreak said that he wasn't aware of this happening at the time in the interview he did with me, because it seems like it was on the mainstream news and it was happening over a course of months, and it was happening in the very next town, or the same town, adjacent towns, you know, the area that he was in. So,
But police did make 6 arrests.
The first of an expected 4 lorries rumbled in...
Of course, on review here, you might be looking out for certain faces in the crowd. If you are, and you spot any, you do tell me. The link for this video is in the description below, so you can go and have a deeper look yourself.
To the narrow high street to be met by a crowd swelled to around 1,000. Some of them animal rights campaigners, but most of them townspeople, indignant that Brightlingsea should become another centre.
I'll tell you something, Unity Calling, big shout out. Google limits research these days. There is another step that we haven't taken really, and that I intend to take in the future, is that I could go and talk to some of these people. You know, I could literally go and talk to them. I don't really have any interest in talking to Earnest Bully or Peter Folding, because I don't know what kind of answers I'm going to get. But the people that are involved at other levels and in different aspects, some of them still exist, and I should be doing that. I'm not a journalist, am I? I've not got a degree in journalism. I'm just a YouTuber who does some chuffing. But as we're going to do this year, going out and making some next level content, I hope that something like this can come of it. So maybe I will end up talking to some of these people.
For a trade they find repugnant. The lorry, carrying several hundred sheep, advanced a few tentative yards, then on police...
Bear in mind as well, I keep talking, don't I? This isn't Scott's vegan campaign, although I am vegan. I feel quite strongly about these issues. This is the truth of the research that I did into the Nicola Bulley case, and so it is a bit difficult. People are going to have different opinions on animal welfare, on whether they should eat them and kill them and eat them, and that's not today's debate. You know, that is part of this debate, and it might make you think and question and talk about it, fine, but I'm not trying to drive home any points about this today. I'm looking into the characters that are the main players in this. You can see this truck, which is the one that I picked out, is the one being driven by what I think is Earnest Bully, and in the right hand side there's somebody else in the cab. Yeah. There is another photograph of Richard Otley in the cab, in black and white. Actually, I should have got this one lined up, shouldn't I? So talk amongst yourselves while I try and find it.
Advice reversed away from the port, its cargo off to spend the night at a farm nearby. The anger expressed by local people astonished the police.
Good evening. The first lorry carrying sheep for export has failed to get through a human blockade.
Okay. So the first lorry failed to get through a human blockade. So what they did is they drove through, and it was night time, you saw it in the video, and they couldn't get through the blockade. This is actually from Alamy stock footage, so I'm supposed to buy this, but, you know, fuck them. If they take this down, I'll cut this bit out of the video and you just won't see it. Oh no. But this is a different day. This is the same sort of truck. It might even be the exact same truck, but we can't corroborate that on this evidence alone in this video. Unless you think you can, and you prove it to me. I'm going to say all these trucks have similar look about them, the cabs at least, and if you own a company that runs trucks, you've got similar cabs, you've got more than one. Maybe it's the identifiable markings of the horns on top or something, I don't know. But in this you can see Richard Otley on the right hand side in the cab. You can't see the whole cab, you can't see if there's 3 people, but you can see he's in the right hand side in the cab, and driving this truck is not the same figure as in the video. This is a different day, it's daylight, the police are lining the streets, which they did later on as a technique to prevent the protesters getting near the trucks. So this is a follow-on from a different day later on, and I don't think that's Earnest Bully driving that truck, and he's dressed differently to the guy that's in the video. So this is a different picture from further on, but that's also supportive evidence of, you know, that we found on this thing here. So I showed you that.
The Essex port of Brightlingsea. Earlier today, several people were arrested.
Unity Calling saying both days it was the first lorry. I disagree. So I think the first day they drove the truck, and it's quite clear to me through this footage, and again, you know, people might have different opinions. This is night time, and I'm of the opinion that what happened is they drove the first trucks without realising how much community outrage there would be. Or they'd been driving trucks in previous places. They'd been, you know, this didn't start in Brightlingsea. This came to Brightlingsea. So on this evening, these people came out and stopped the trucks. And I think the police had to say, look, we can't go and have a load of police response until you get stopped by protesters. You know, imagine you're a truck company. You say, we're coming through Brightlingsea. I want you to line the streets with police. And the police are going to say, well, you can't just call us like we're your private security. We're not Peter Folding. You know, you can't just do that. what you could do is you could drive the trucks, we'll attend, and then when there's a protest, it will cause a knock-on effect. Right, now there's a logged offence, there's a logged problem, there's a thing. We can now respond as police next time and create an action plan. But until you do the first drive, we can't. So I think they encouraged this first drive, and that's why I think someone high up in the company was driving this truck, well aware that this was an important moment in this process. That's my opinion. I don't think that it's the same truck on the same day. Also, if you look at the top of this truck here, it's very difficult to see, but I'm not seeing the same items on the top, the horn and the light, in the same way. But that might just be the way I'm looking at it through the lens. I encourage everyone to do their own thinking and looking at it. That's my opinion. That's your opinion. That's what we are. I apologise if you got an advert. That's what we are. That's my opinion. That's your opinion. That's what we're here for. I'm happy for that. Right? You have your own opinion. I have my own opinion. There we go. So everyone will be able to draw their own opinion because they'll be able to see all the things.
Police advice reversed away from the port. Its cargo off to spend the night at a farm nearby.
Interesting, they say off to spend the time at a farm nearby. This will come up again later. There is someone, I think it might have been Chrissy Substack, who we'll talk about in future episodes maybe, although they went they're doing the IOPC report at the moment. I'm not looking at their stuff because I still haven't finished my IOPC report video, which will be coming. I'll be finishing that report, don't you worry. But here they said that these trucks farm nearby. I believe they took them back to a farm nearby, but I'm not certain that all of these live animal exports have come from just nearby areas. In fact, I think I have pictures later on that are going to promote the idea, or maybe support the idea that the trucks came from further afield. The cargo and we'll see.
The anger expressed by local people astonished the police.
Good evening. The first lorry carrying sheep for exporters failed to get through a
Penny Bustin. I don't know if you remember Look East, if that's your area. Maybe you remember Penny Bustin.
human blockade at the
Bustin makes me feel good.
Essex port of Brightlingsea. Earlier today, several people were arrested after a group of protesters surrounded a sheep exporter's car.
Happy days. I don't think we've got a serial pusher, no. And I think if it turned out that there was someone who became a copycat killer, then that would be a knock-on effect and not the reason that these people have been going in the river initially. And it would be used as a smokescreen cover-up, a sort of media cover-up to sort of smoke and mirrors, get everyone talking about a pusher, and then the actual truth of the matter is kind of lost in that maze. No, I think that for some of these cases, these people have been specifically targeted. We'll be talking in a future episode about a gin connection and about stuff like that. I think Nicola Bulley was specifically targeted, in my opinion, to put pressure on Earnest Bully. So no, I don't think she was part of a serial pusher random thing. And I think there are people that die in rivers. If you look at the statistics, there is a sort of average, and that average will not be consistent. You're not going to have, like, let's say the average number of people that die in rivers every year is 20. It's not going to be that they die one a month or anything, and they're not in one year. They might 3 or 4 might come in January, and 4 or 5 might come in a different month. The averages will average out, but the statistics will be quite inconsistent because it's not a sort of normal event. It's not a routine event. So the statistics will be inconsistent. And so you can tinker with that concept of saying, right, I've got some inconsistent statistics. Let's create some ideas. But they're not consistent enough to create ideas from, in my opinion.
Things started to get out of hand at
So that's the guy in the Range Rover there.
lunchtime as protesters rocked the car belonging to a sheep exporter from Cambridgeshire.
Sheep exporter from Cambridgeshire, of all places. This is my first introduction through this video to Richard Otley.
There's been a police press conference tonight. The Assistant Chief Constable Geoffrey Markham said the reason that the lorry was turned back from the police point of view was on the grounds of public safety.
An important point. I don't know, this is night time here in this report, and these reports are not time stamped, so we'd have to do more research and better research to accurately put all the timeline in here. It's a bit of a project, but I'm of the opinion, like I said, that the first lorries came through, the protest happened, and the police didn't realise it was going to be of that scale or size, and they couldn't put in a big police response and bring in the private protest breakers or anyone. They couldn't do that until they had this first conflict, this first, Like, I think I made that point. So I think they were maybe surprised they had to turn the lorries back, but by saying they have to turn the lorries back because it's public safety, this sets into action a process that then ends up with hundreds of police bussed in from other areas, private companies like Peter Folding employed to break protests, you know, things like that. And I think without the first turn back and the public safety problem, it doesn't happen. So they have to sort of allow this to happen in order to then go into action, knowing that this is probably going to happen because there's a groundswell of support for the protest movement, and these lorries have already been turned away from other ports.
There were disabled people, there were children in the crowd, and he said the situation was becoming quite dangerous.
1,500 demonstrators.
I agree, Victoria, you could traffic anything, not just drugs. I agree. Part of the point that I make in the Nicola Bulley video, and you know, maybe this is for later, but is that as time moves on, these animal agriculture businesses fade. Some of them, they're not all still in operation maybe. And again, this is more deep research, but because the trade in livestock eventually is a problem and it gets banned today, I think they might look for other ways to transport anything illicit. And that's why I think that passing on the farms and turning them into gin distilleries and things like that is a potential move. So whilst I get what you're saying, and I do worry that we're talking about human trafficking as well as other kinds of smuggling, and it does go on, I wonder if you are still able to do that without the animal aspect of it, because the animals might be easier to hide people in amongst, or I might be wrong in saying that. I mean, these were veal crates, weren't they? Like a crate with a sort of simple life support system for an animal to be confined in. Like maybe you could put a human in that. Interesting idea. Yeah.
Had blockaded the
look who it is. Look who it is. So Trevor McDonald. This was national news. So again, I'm surprised that Eddie Vinyl Break was unaware of this in his role as media person in the local area.
Export of Brightlingsea. ITN's Colin Baker was there.
It was just a token attempt to get through, but a solid and motivated...
Did you hear him say that? It was a token attempt to get through.
It was just a token attempt to get through.
And the police seem very disorganised, and it's not the same lines of police in the streets. It's not it's nighttime, not daytime, and it was a token attempt to get through. So it seems like they drove one lorry up with the main people in the lorry, in my opinion, Earnest Bully driving the lorry according to this footage, and then they couldn't get through, and you know they had to come back with more police and more people and a better plan, and so it's this that kicked that into gear.
But a solid and motivated...
Therefore, in my opinion, this is the first run with one truck, and that black and white photograph is from a different day with more trucks, and therefore the fact that this is Earnest Bully, and in my opinion, and the other man is not because he's wearing different clothes, it's fine because they're on different days, it's different trucks. Or it could be the same truck on a different day.
All the protesters proved impenetrable. This lorry was one of 4 contracted to bring livestock to Brightlingsea port, bound for slaughter on the continent.
These people that throw themselves in front of the trucks, look really bad on this video because you've got police and you've got a lorry, and you're used to seeing those things. The police keep order and the lorries go on the road, and someone who's willing to throw themselves in front of a truck seems like a full nutter. But you've got to consider the conviction and the compassion of these people who were prepared to do this, and they're the sort of people who would have, when the whistle blew, they would have jumped out the trenches and run into the machine gun fire. So they're the people that we owe, people like that are the people that we owe our freedom to. So I respect them massively.
After a 9-hour North Sea crossing, each lorry carrying at least 400 sheep and lambs. One man threw himself out of a wheelchair to lie across the road, almost under the front wheels. It was the moment of victory.
It was one man threw himself out of his wheelchair under the wheels. Sorry, it's going to make me emotional. So one man threw himself out of his wheelchair under the wheels of the truck, and that was the moment of victory where the police decided, well, how the fuck are we going to deal with this? I'm not dragging a disabled man off the street. No one has protocol for how to remove disabled protester from under wheels of truck. Let's call it an evening, let's call it a day, and let's come back with a better plan.
For 12 cold hours, the demonstrators have been waiting for this moment.
12 hours, so it might have started in the day, I'll agree with that, and they waited for that moment, but it doesn't give me the timestamp.
As a convoy of lorries carrying sheep for export to the continent was forced to turn back from the Essex port of Brightlingsea.
It's been an eventful day at this historic but modest port. The news tonight is that protesters have succeeded in turning back the lorries of live animals bound for the continent. A senior police officer said he'd never...
Do you know something I find funny? I mean, I think it's really, I do appreciate he's on the scene, so he's going to do a report from the scene. But I always find it funny when they do these reports from the scene. And do you know what? Like, it's good if you're there and you're getting the report, but it's okay if you go indoors to do the reading to the camera. For me, it is. I don't need to see the back. I mean, I can't even see the background here. It's dark, but I don't, you know, like when they do the reports on the Parliament, and they're like, I'm outside the Houses of Parliament, and today this happened, and da-da-da, and like the building's behind you, so it adds gravitas, yeah? But you're all right to go and sit in front of the camera inside and not have all the cars and stuff going on and be in the cold. I'm all right with that. I know you're there. I don't need to see it in a big picture behind you, like, to prove the gravitas. Just do the report from inside.
Seen such
You must be freezing.
diverse, dedicated and articulate opposition to a single issue.
I love that.
Seen such modest port. The news tonight is that protesters have succeeded in turning back the lorries of live animals bound for the continent. A senior police officer said he'd never seen such diverse, dedicated and articulate opposition to a single issue.
Diverse, dedicated and articulate opposition to a single issue. And that eventually fell away when they created laws to criminalise those people for what you're not allowed to, what you could go and protest the animals and stuff. Like if this happened today, you could go and protest those lorries. You could do that and that's fine. But if you do it again and again, then you're harassing people who are part of the food chain, and that's a different criminal offence, and you're not allowed to do that. So prison for you, literally. And that's how they broke that down eventually. And today they're attacking even your right to protest or be loud in public as part of a protest. So, you know, you want to watch for that. There's the truck, there's the guy.
At 6:30 this evening.
Not the best shot of it, but...
Opposition to a single issue.
In my opinion.
At 6:30
and other people are going to be looking at the faces of the officers and stuff, you know, looking to see if you can find other people. Legitimately, I've only found Peter Folding in that one video, which is a different video to this, and this of Earnest Bully. So I'm not saying that I've seen other people there, and I wonder and I worry that some people might be forwarding spurious pictures and saying, oh, it's this person, again, to muddy the water. But if you do think you spotted someone, it's interesting.
This evening, the first lorry appeared. Demonstrators, some of them at Brightlingsea since early morning, immediately voiced their opposition.
Oh, absolutely, BCTV. Field reporting is absolutely on. Like, do that. But at the end, when you're finished doing the field reporting and it's time to talk to the man in the studio, or lady, of course, I'm not being sexist, why do they have to stand in the cold and do their report at the end like that? Why can't they have gone from the field, taken all of their notes, and then sat down inside a room and report to me from the room where they're not cold? Sometimes it's raining or whatever and they're like out in the elements. I'm just like, let them go indoors. It's fine. The event is over now. They're reporting on what happened earlier. Anyway.
The lorry edged down the street leading to the port. A police van, its rear doors open.
Big ups, Kaz Collection. Welcome to member. Thank you.
Went ahead of the lorry. Demonstrators surged around the vehicles.
So there's that footage again. You will see this lorry and that driver a few times. You'll note that here it's got some sort of reflective yellow thing at the top, which again doesn't ring right with the black and white image I saw earlier, but maybe that was added, you know, taken off. I don't know, but...
A police van, its rear doors open, went ahead of the lorry. Demonstrators surged around the vehicles.
And the man in the cab here, you can see the reflection of glasses, this man. So earlier I said it was Otley because Otley was in that black and white picture that I showed you just a minute ago. But this man's got glasses on. I don't know if Richard Otley is wearing glasses and is wearing that same clothing as he is in the other picture. So I probably just want to get that up again, don't I? Ah! Yeah, Otley's not wearing glasses here, and he's wearing a plain white shirt with a short sleeve and a tie. So this looks like a different picture on a different day, but it's a good picture from that event. So, you know, but I'm not saying that's definitely Otley there. Red Fan, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you. Big Chris, John Main, BCTV, big names from this chat. You've managed to bag yourself a membership along with Selena and the 411. You've managed to bag yourself membership, so make sure you check out that exclusive members content that exists on this channel. And that sentiment of wanker and punching the bus, that was for them, not for me to. But this is just the people from the town who don't want this going on in their little town. You know, you live in a small little town on the seashore in England, and then suddenly you've got these daily death buses coming past full of these animals. It's just, they didn't want it. They didn't want to partake in it and be party to it, and they don't want it in their, like, they turned it away. And I think for a lot of them, they might not have been vegan or vegetarian or anything, but this might have made them think more carefully about the food chain, and that is a huge problem. Let me make this very clear. Like, I'm not here as a conspiracy theorist trying to say the government are trying to break your brain with the way or anything like that, psyops and that. But it's very clear that moments like this threaten the status quo of the Conservative Party. Many of the donors to the Conservative Party, wealthy landowners who, I'm not talking about little farms with, like, you know, mom and pop farms with a few sheep and a few goats and a chicken and whatever, although vegan, you know, but like, not talking about that. I'm talking about massive agricultural machines, you know, the industrial processing of animals, all that stuff, you know, the big business that provides you with half the food you eat. You chuffer. You know, you go vegan. But, like, you know, that whole food chain, that you go to work and you spend your money predominantly on the products that these people produce, and they're all, like, it's land ownership, it's farms, like, in terms of dairy production, and like, it's a big industry, yeah. And the Conservative Party, the National Farmers Union, the big businesses that surround it, they have a lot of stability and control and financial interest. And then all of a sudden, like, loads of people say, hang on, this ain't quite right. I'm not happy with this. Now we can see what's actually going on in front of our eyes. I'm not very happy with it. And we're all going to come out and say that we're not happy with it. Like, they literally had to start putting into place new laws on how to control the population based on these sort of protests in the late 90s. Like, they literally did that. So, like, it is very, very interesting to me to see at a moment in social history like this, the way that the government's response, and, you know, people were talking in chat earlier about the miners' strike and scabs and stuff like that. The miners' strike was followed by Thatcher and her taking control of that situation in a certain way, and this is the John Major years following on from that. So it is all, like, you can take it back as far politically as the late 70s, the UK. You know, this is our politics of our history, so here it is in action, and it's very, very interesting to me.
Senior police officers decided it was unwise to continue the convoy. The lorry reversed slowly.
These police people are employed by us, the public. You know, they're citizens, and we police ourselves effectively. They're not an army here to shoot me or put me in my home. Like, they're there to carry out justice, to, you know, on behalf of the people. In fact, they don't enact the justice, do they? That's the courts. They're there to uphold the law. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a very interesting setup, because why are all the people out here on the streets being policed? Shouldn't all the people be listened to, and the police be policing these trucks? Maybe, you know, conversations to be had, but, you know,
down the street.
Well, they were had, obviously.
Protesters scented victory.
There was such a powerful demonstration against it that I decided that it was unsafe for it to proceed. There were young children in the crowd, there were disabled people in the crowd, complete cross-section of the local community. There were some stones coming over from the back, albeit there were few, but there were some, and I considered it dangerous for the vehicle to proceed any further, so I said that it would have to withdraw. And
it's interesting to me as well, this is the first guy on the scene. He seems to actually be quite sympathetic to the plight of the community, and it's a very balanced response. I don't know how much further he was in charge of all this stuff, whether it just came to his small town and, you know, he was forced to lead the police response in the initial stage. Of course, that's my questioning the narrative, and I'm sort of constructing a narrative myself there, aren't I? I'm saying, like, he seems all right. I bet they got rid of him.
Draw it has.
Richard Otley from Huntingdon drove towards the port.
Richard Otley from Huntingdon. Did you hear that?
Have to withdraw, and withdraw it has.
Richard Otley from Huntingdon.
Richard Otley from Huntingdon. Now, I don't know if they mean he lives in Huntingdon or if he's connected to Huntingdon Life Sciences, the animal testing group that used to be based in the UK but moved to America after all of these problems. But still, you know, Huntingdon Life Sciences was on Peter Falding's proud list of places that he'd removed protesters from. And without him going into great detail, as he's now deleted it off his website, we will never really know, maybe. But Huntingdon Life Sciences is the worst kind of animal torture. It's where they do animal experiments. And this is where we bring in animal experiments and the production of pharmaceuticals. Companies like GlaxoSmithKline, companies like, you know, big companies, pharmaceutical companies that are producing. I don't want to, you know, got to be careful now in 2024, haven't I, after everything that's happened over the last few years. And I'm not an anti-thingy, and I'm not a, you know, big conspiracy theory thingy, but you've got to be careful of what you say on YouTube. But companies that make drugs, yeah, and you should be aware, byproducts of that sometimes include bad narcotics. Like, you can actually use cocaine in the production of the good narcotics. Like, if you want to make certain drugs, like, I don't know, cocoldamol, or aren't there drugs that utilize cocaine in their production? And I think you're legitimately allowed to produce it if you're a big pharmaceutical company. And I'm not an expert on all this stuff, but what I'm saying is that's that link there. Is Richard Otley from Huntingdon, maybe he's linked to Huntingdon Life Sciences, maybe not. I don't know, this is a community effort, but what I am saying is that the link to the pharmaceutical companies and the animal trade is absolutely implicit. Like, they need a supply of animals to test on. They regularly test on animals. They make masses of not like mainstream drugs, and they also through the process of making mainstream drugs, they have all sorts of byproducts and funny chemicals and shit going on. And they also import massive amounts of powders from around the world to make those drugs with. Like, that's all just facts on the table for the pharmaceutical companies. And if you're the sort of person that would happily go into work and test on an animal, then you're the sort of person that could happily go out into the world and do whatever else, couldn't you? So the people that are connected in this chain, in my opinion, if you're the sort of person that would just jump in the cab and say, all right, sheep's in the back, fuck them, let's go on a nice 12-hour journey to France. Like, you know, maybe you don't have as many good bones in your body as I would hope, because that seems pretty harsh as well. So when you question people's morals and ethics, the things they do stand out to me. And if you're prepared to do something really, really, really horrible and horrible to an animal, then you're probably prepared to do anything, in my opinion, aren't you? Because that's the lowest of the low.
Drove towards the port, only to find the narrow road blocked by protesters. The vehicle was bounced and scratched, lights were broken and plated. With me now is the Mayor of Brightlingsea, Rick Morgan. Mr. Morgan, what do you make of what's happened today?
Well, obviously a very large turnout, and particularly pleased because obviously my main concern is the safety of the residents of Brightlingsea.
Easy for him. It's an easy job. You're there for the residents of Brightlingsea. You represent them, so you don't want the trucks coming through, and safety is important as well. This big issue has come to your small town, and it's not your issue. You're not involved in this, like, direct. You're not shipping animals. You're not, you know, like an animal rights activist or anything. The people have become active because they are not happy. Like, it's not about an animal rights thing in the public. It became about that. That's what they're angry about, but they are not an animal rights. Your small town is not a conglomerate group of animal rights activists. That's not what's happening. So it's a very interesting position for this man to be put in. But
in the property of Brightlingsea, and I'm very pleased to see that it was very peaceful today.
In the coastal town of Brightlingsea, they achieved dramatic success last night, turning away a truckload of sheep bound for the...
This is GMTV, so again, Eddie's Vinyl Break might not have watched the telly in the morning, he might have listened to the radio, but I am still surprised that someone from that area... I won't keep banging his name, because I'm not trying to make him feel cross, but it's just something that keeps ringing in my brain when I see these reports. I think this was big news back in the day, and I think a lot of people back in the day that were from this area would have been, in some way, wrapped up and involved in it. And I would ask you, we'll say Nicola Bulley, 1978 birthday, this is 1995, so I'd ask you in chat if you could do the maths for me. How old was Nicola Bulley? Which, if I've got that wrong, correct me. 78, 79, 80, and then 90 is 10 years, and then 5 years, that would be 15, about 17 years old, are we saying? Are we saying Nicola Bulley was about 17? I wonder what a 17-year-old whose father worked in the trucking industry that potentially, in my opinion, he's photographed in the damn video, was driving the trucks, but lives in a town where many people work in that animal agriculture industry, In Woodland Ferrers, Essex, there's a lot of animal businesses, kill chain businesses they call them, because like the town itself seems to have been built around a lot of animal agriculture industry, like the killing of the animals, the packing of the animals into small packages, the cutting them up into pieces and all that. So I wonder what Nicola and her feelings were. We've got that photograph of her with the lamb, haven't we? And like, you know, rest in peace, Nicola. It's been nearly a year now, hasn't it? But when I say rest in peace, I mean I want to find the truth. I get the feeling she might have been compassionate, and I get the feeling that she might have been, you know, young girls growing up are not always totally in line with, like, young people growing up are sometimes rebellious against their parents. So I wonder what the conversations were like in the Bully household concerning this issue, and I wonder, like, her Twitter, the politics were different to mine. Her opinions on some of these recent events, you know, the lockdowns and things like that, were different. She was quite politically on one side of that, so she was quite happy to have like strong opinions on things. Yeah, so there's some questions, aren't there? There's some questions. To wake up in the morning, see this on the news, know that... I'll do it for you now on the map, because why not? Brightlingsea, the maps. Let's go. This is where this Battle of Brightlingsea is happening, look. There on the map. Interestingly, there's Norwich, where Gloria Gaynor went in the water, and this is that route across the country, isn't it, that we were talking about earlier. So there's Brightlingsea, and Nicola grew up in a town called South Woodland Ferrers, which is here. That's South Woodland Ferrers. And if I zoom out from South Woodland Ferrers, you can see you've got London, South Woodland Ferrers, Brightlingsea. It's like a route across like that. Like it's like inline. So this is where South Woodland Ferrers is. And there's loads of these little, you know, communities in this part of the world. Quite often little ports. And just around where she was from, Southend-on-Sea, quite a famous place, Canvey Island, this sort of place, Basildon. You know, South Woodland Ferrers there. I'm not saying this whole town was built on like the animal industry or anything, but if you look into it, and it's in that video that I did, you know, there are animal agricultural, you know, places. There's even a place called Marsh Farm, which is quite interesting to me. There's actually a place called Marsh Farm Country Park. And Emma lives at Marsh Farm. It's probably just a coincidence, isn't it? But because this whole place, like, it's not just an animal adventure park. South Woodland Ferrers is, it was this other thing called Elite Animal. It's in my video, isn't it? So, you know, maybe I should suggest. I think I have suggested watching this video a million times. But there's a company that does like kill chain adjacent solutions, like limited. Hellenic Systems. That's it. Like, as an example. Like, Hellenic Systems here. Like, now you've got tap room next door, look. Brewery. I wonder if anyone's making any gin. But these sort of industrial places, industrial, you know, you get loads of units and it's an industrial thing. Like, there's a company there about scaffolding and, you know, they're down-to-earth, day-to-day companies that do plumbing and engineering and, like, you know, real things for real people that need. Food is part of that kill chain. What they do is they, like, package animals into, you know, sell machines that can package animals and stuff. And, like, the fact that this is a port in, so you get like a boat full of something, and then you go through the factory, and then it comes out in packages, and then it goes to the big supermarket place. And do you know what I'm saying? Like that, they don't bring all the stuff right into the centre of London and then distribute it from there, do they? So these places, these towns, animal agriculture industry is part of the small towns that are fed by. I mean, around here, this landscape that you think is just green and nothing. Like, this is all farm and arable, isn't it? like loads of this. Same with, let's just take you up to St. Michael's. Like, this is a similar connection in the landscape here, isn't it? Is that you've got a bigger, sort of more populated area, like Manchester or Liverpool, but these places, like up here, there's a lot more arable land. There's, like, it's not just all green because there's nothing there. Like, it's all farms. And then what happens when they've done all the collecting of the milk or the, you know, fattening of the cattle? Where do they go? Well, first of all, you box them up, or you know, it used to be that you'd kill them in the area, but now you ship them all across the country. Well, you don't now, but, like, you know, back then they were shipping them across the country to do it. It's just all part of the food chain. That's just all it is, isn't it? You know, if you're going to eat dead animals, then it's all part of the food chain. But if you're going to work in an industry that, like, deals with them, you're going to have to deal head on with that food chain, and you're going to have to, like, you know, I can never understand the people who put bullets in the brain, like, they use a bolt gun and, like, you know, stun the, and then they string them up, and, like, all that shit. I couldn't work in that. I mean, obviously I couldn't, I'm vegan, but, like, you know, I couldn't do that. So some people could, and they live, you know, nearby the places that they work. And I'm not picking out any particular one place there now and saying, oh, look, this town is built on the factory of the dead. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, in this area, South Woodham Fair is where Nicky grew up. Animal industry existed, and up the road where the Battle of Brightlingsea happened, it was all happening. And if you live in anywhere in this area in the 90s, you were watching this on the news in the morning, weren't you? Anyway.
Continent.
Brightlingsea was the mouse that roared last night. 1,500 demonstrators, young and old, fueled by events at Shoreham, used their sheer mass to block the narrow road to the wharf, where
that guy's got a little dog or a horse, and the fucking lorry keeps driving at him.
Freighter was waiting.
Now, I don't think you should take your dog in front of a lorry on a protest march, but, like, blimey.
For sheep and lambs to sail on the night tide to Belgium.
And who's driving it?
And foreign abattoirs. The small Essex town was having none of it.
What's going on now? Stay off the road!
With elderly, young and disabled among the crowd, police had no option but to call it off for the night.
Did you hurt yourself? I'm a bit sore, but I'll be all right.
Big ups Chris Flood. I wonder if he's still going. I'd love to have a chat to him.
I can't feel most of the bottom half anyway, so it don't really matter, does it?
There were 6 arrests from earlier clashes with police as the shipper tried to reach the wharf in his car.
The shipper tried to reach the port in his car, so that's Otley again. That's who we're going to be talking about through the prism of this interesting article interviewing him in a minute.
Cargoes of live sheep and veal calves are planned for every day this week from the tiny Essex port. Martin Frizzell, GMTV News, Brightlingsea.
Tried to block the export of live sheep. About 1,000 demonstrators managed to turn back a lorry carrying livestock last night, and over 100 people have already assembled at the quayside this morning.
But the exporters are angry this morning, saying their trade is legal and that Essex police should have managed their...
There's the bit of the video that I used for my bit of the video that I think looks very, very much like Earnest Bully. People critiqued that his earlobes might be a bit different. Of course, collagen and the way your ears will grow, and, like, your ears will look different over the course of, like, what was it, 95, 2005, 2015, 2000, like, it's nearly 30 years or something, isn't it? So
operation more efficient.
But the shape of the nose, the shape of the chin, the shape of the brow, the hairline, you know, there's so much about that what more do you want me to do as a human being when I'm cross-referencing whether people look exactly the same as themselves on videos? It's just, like, I think CCTV is very, very strong evidence, and this isn't just CCTV, it's the shoulder cam of the news people, so it's slightly better than, although it's presented to us now today in 480p, because it's an old news thing that's been recorded and put up on YouTube. So, you know, take of it for what you will, I suppose. It's all about your own choice here. I'm not trying to force this down your throat, but these are my opinions. So, and there he is in a slight, like, brighter, and, like, you've got, this is small on the screen now, but you can go and watch this video yourself. It's linked in the description below, you know. Yeah.
The businessmen say the police should have learnt lessons from the Shoreham protests and found a way of combating similar protests at Brightlingsea.
Also, what I did for you in the Nicola Bulley video that I did is I screenshotted them and put them side by side. Those screenshots that I put side by sides on, see, that one's actually where it's slightly darker. I probably could have used a slightly brighter shot there. I just used one that was of a similar, you know, maybe I could take more screenshots and put more side by sides. Maybe other people want to do that. Ultimately, those pictures, I could tweet them again, get them out there more so you can pore over them. They're in that video, so you can take your time and look at them there. Yeah.
However, those who live in the town are just as determined that the trade won't be plied through Brightlingsea.
Animal rights protesters at the Essex port of Brightlingsea has criticised police handling.
And it's simply not just that it looks like him, of course. It's that Earnest Bully was the director of a company. So his appointment to MPG Express Freight, which was Southwood and Ferrers, yeah, that appointment, you know, he left that company, but he was the director of the company. Earnest Bully there, director. So, like, being the he resigned and moved, obviously, but he was the director of that company, and that company, MPG Express, it's in my video, so I don't know why I'm doing this again, but that company still operating and still and still shipping worldwide, like, you know. So if you're, it's not just that he's in the video, right? It's that he's in a video driving a truck, and the truck is exporting live animals across the country, across the board, ferrying them across Europe, and he's the director of a company whose specialist is in exporting freight across into Europe and other places. Look, they've got a button here for Europe. Like parcel, pallet, fuel and part load. Maybe it's different these days. Air freight, sea freight. You know, I don't know like where the button is for do you do animals or not, but back then in the 1990s, if you ran a trucking company and you weren't moving animals, like all of your fucking, like, are you telling me this company never moved? I haven't got evidence to prove that MPG has been involved in the export of live animals in the 90s, but what I've got is that Earnest Bully was the director of that company, and he looks like he's in that picture. So again, I'm limited on what I can do, but the whole of the community can look into it, and I'm accepting of my own. Like, if it was court and you were going to court and you were the jury, I'd be effectively the prosecution, and I'd present these pieces of evidence, and then you'd have to make your mind up, and that's everything. That's all it ever is. When in any, like, it's very unlikely in most murder cases or whatever they are, most cases, you're going to get people turn up to court and say, oh, I videoed it all myself, here's all the video, I'm doing it all, here's the video. Most of the time you have to piece together things from all these different pieces of information that all go together to paint the picture. And to me, okay, it might not be enough to convict in court that amount of evidence, but that's enough evidence to get me started on thinking, hey, this makes sense to me. So you know, that's where I'm at, and it's up to people to, if for other people that's not enough, then maybe they should either completely just make up their own decision, and that's fine, or look into it more, maybe, because I think there's more to look into there.
The situation. Richard Otley has vowed to get his...
Here's the man, so we're going to be looking at this man. I keep saying we're going to be, and we will. ...has
criticised police handling of the situation. Richard Otley has vowed to get his shipments of livestock to Belgium, despite the presence of demonstrators.
Richard Otley, the farmer wanting to export sheep, is to ask the Prime Minister to intervene so protesters don't halt the shipment.
It's interesting, isn't it? He's going to ask the Prime Minister to intervene, a bit like what Peter Faulding's going to be doing when he gets back from America, where Huntington Life Sciences moved to. Not that they're connected, except on his website where he was connecting himself with them until he deleted it. So.
Today, as the Caroline sat at anchor in Brightlingsea Harbour, still awaiting her controversial load, the weather was preventing any sailing on the lunchtime tide. The protesters, though, were keeping their vigil.
They could still load them tonight. There's nothing to stop them keeping on board because they have layerage. We will certainly be here till the lunchtime tide is covered, and then we'll have a review of the situation, find out anything more we know, and then decide what to do for this afternoon.
Scratches and dents caused by angry demonstrators will cost hundreds of pounds to repair. But while his Range Rover may have taken a knock, Richard Otley's determination hasn't.
You know what I say about the country, the farming? Like, there are some really nice people who run farms. Like, they care about animals. They might, in my opinion, still be, one small step away from the next step of like being vegan. But there are some really good people who treat animals with care and respect, and there are other people like Richard Otley who own large amounts of animals, it seems, and wander around in the Range Rovers with the tweed jacket and the Wellingtons, and like in the pub you might see them as like a farmer type. They might work closely with the NFU in some financial way, because the NFU is a big financial institution that's involved in farming, isn't it? And it's all part of our culture in Britain, and it's all part of our strata. Like I say, we're not going to attack the farmers and the landowners and the British concept of this green and pleasant land, are we? Because that's who we are and that's what we are. And it also, like I said, plays into the Conservative Party, because a lot of those people that have all that are supporters of the Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party themselves, through these times, have been funneling public money into the pockets of the farmers for various reasons, and some people have been very supportive of that. You want to subsidise the dairy farmers, don't you, to make sure they get a fair crack. You want to make sure that you funnel off public money to, protect the British beef industry against, you don't want Argentinian beef, do you? You want to protect the British beef industry. So we're going to support it with public money, with like promotional marketing campaigns, and post-war that was very important. We didn't have an economy post-war. Loads of people went to war. I'm saying post-Second World War, yeah. Loads of people went to war and they all died, and then we all been bombed and stuff, and we turned all our factories into gun machines. So what they did was they had advertising campaigns like "Go to work on an egg," and they promoted this dairy, egg and meat produce industry to get Britain going again, and and that is what things were. But they're not exactly like that today. They don't have to be, and our food chains are different today. But it's very, very interesting to me the layer cake here that connects someone like Richard Otley, who just wants to sell a few sheep, but also the government, the big financiers, the big landowners, the control of the people. And later on in my video, I read "The Lord is the Shepherd," and I want to bring this out and state this quite overtly, although it's going to be lost in today's episode, so I need to state it elsewhere again. When I read Psalm 23, I'm well aware in a different way that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So I'm a person and the Lord is my God, and he's going to make things good for me. I'm going to lie down in green pastures, which means nice to lie down in green pastures, isn't it? It's nice to be a sheep and to lie down in green pastures. God's going to lead me beside still waters and restore my soul. He's going to lead me in the paths of righteousness for the name's sake. So all I have to do is be a sheep. I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Things are scary for sheep. I fear no evil, because I just trust in God. God's with me. The rod and the staff comfort me, knowing that God has that rod and that staff, which the rod and the staff is something you can strike down with, and you can it's like the shepherd protects his sheep by striking the enemy with the staff. They comfort me. Despite being weapons, they comfort me. Of course, the staff could be used to hook and pull a sheep as well, couldn't it? But that's comforting too, apparently. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So in front of my enemies, you create this bounteous table. I hope I'm not on it, because you're anointing my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. Well, I should think it should, because I'm a sheep. I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Well, when I die I will. Hang on, what's happening here? The Lord is my shepherd. Hang on, the Lord? You mean a lord like Lord Mountbatten, or Lord Chancellor this man, or Lord so-and-so, or, a Lord is my shepherd? I thought it was God that was my shepherd. I shall not want. Well, everything's done for me and I don't have a choice to what I want and what I don't want. I don't have wants. I just, get what I get, yeah? He makes me lie down. I don't want to lie down. I want to stand up. I want to do what I want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Green pastures, the good green, great English countryside, the green pastures. Lie down in the field. Lie down in the field. I mean, I could imagine someone saying that to Nicola Bulley the moment they grabbed her. Lie down in the field. He leads me beside the still waters. Okay, this is getting a bit creepy. He restores my soul. Are we doing some sort of ritual here? What's going on with my soul? He leads me, again, my Lord now, leading me, not God anymore, but some sort of rereading of this, where a Lord could be someone who owns a lot of land or something, leading me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So he's the one deciding the righteousness now. It's his name, and it's his choices. Yeah, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I hope I don't, like those animals, have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You know, those animals walking through the valley of the shadow of death, like those sheep. I fear no evil, for you are with me, my Lord. Your rod and your staff, the weapons, are going to comfort me. What are you going to do? Put me out my misery? You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. As I said, what am I going to do? Be on it, apple in my mouth, pig on the table. My cup runs over when you literally, and I don't want to get crude here, but when you literally cut my throat and allow it to drain into a cup, and that runs over with my blood. I've now been literally sacrificed on the table, anointed with oil. Surely my goodness and mercy shall follow me. I should like this. I should enjoy it happening. In fact, it should be the greatest pleasure of my life to be sacrificed in this way, much like the Aztecs in the human sacrifice. So how could they possibly have, like, you know, got away with sacrificing all these people? Well, some of them wanted it because it was like the best, most honourable, wonderful thing they could have done in their life, to sacrifice themselves. So surely goodness and mercy shall follow me, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Like the Psalm 23, I believe, and I'm not going to sound like a conspiracy nut on the internet, I'm not doing that, but if you want to go into Masons and this and that and like clandestine groups, you could basically take this Psalm of David, and that could be their, you know, they could take something that's from the Bible and was, remember as well, the Bible at one point was used to socially control people. Like, we didn't have all the police and the science and whatever we do now, and it was, I mean, Marx raised this as a concept, but religion being the opiate of the masses, you know, it made me think this, but the religion was used to control people. You are good or bad because God can see you. Like the priest will know, and like religion was a social control. As much as there are good things out of, I'm not slamming everyone that's Christian or anything, and I'm not throwing like religion completely under the bus, but I'm saying in the 1400s or whatever, you know, mechanisms of social control, religion was one of them. So could you reread this from the perspective of, you could read this from the perspective of sheep, and read into it that God is your shepherd and everything's going to be fine. But you could read this from the perspective of someone trying to tell the sheep stuff because they're the Lord's, and they could twist this, and they could even put it as a, you know, you could put it in your satanic ritual church and read that out, and it would be a laugh for them, wouldn't it? Because they're laughing because they've twisted it all, and they're the Lords. And we do have lords. We do. They own all this land. And like, you know, treat people like sheep, don't they? And then you go into all this conspiracy psyop stuff, which I don't think it, you know, me, I'm not saying Mason's conspiracy psyop, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that the reason people feel like that is because these things can be dressed like that. Like in the cold light of day, they're just horrible people doing horrible things. They don't need to wear a funny cloak and have a special club and, you know, do the rituals. They're just horrible people. But some people think they're in this horrible people club, like with the cloaks on, doing the rituals and stuff. Okay, maybe you think that, up to you. But I'm saying this Lord is this shepherd, and look what he's doing with the sheep. He's selling them for a bob a head, trying to get them across the borders. And if he can't, he's going to fucking force it to happen. Like, some people might have said, oh, whoa, whatever's going on here, this is a problem. Our business of murdering sheep abroad has now suddenly come to an abrupt halt. Maybe we should do something else. Not this man, no. I'm going to fight everybody in the town. The entire town must bow down to me. I'm fucking coming through. Get the police, get everyone. Shut your stupid town down now. It's my town now. My sheep are coming through. See what I'm saying? Andy's saying you're totally lost. Okay? Rewind it and review it. It's my... I'm pointing out this man in his tweed jacket with his wellies, like those people in the red jackets that ride those horses on the fox hunts. Like, people in the countryside aren't all just rural grunters. Like, farming people aren't all just small time 2 pigs and a sheep. You know, like there's mass industrial farming, and the people that do it and have the land and the weight, and the people that trade in it and stuff like that, they're the people that are all tweed and countryside and Burberry and, you know, and the country set with all the monies, and they're making it all off this. So it's an aspect of the Nicola Bulley case, because if Earnest Bully's driving those trucks, you know, if he's wrapped up in this, then these are the people that are like, Ernest isn't like some super Mr. Big, in my opinion. You know, people like Nicola Bulley, people like you, people like me, we're not like some super Mr. Big in this story, are we? But there are people that have got bigger, more weight. And Peter Folding wants to be amongst this group. He'd love to be amongst this group, wouldn't he? But the old money, the powers that be, the need to control the populace, this all stems and comes from these sort of things. And what's happening today in the political climate, you know, with people talking about, I think they push them too far deliberately. I think the powers that be push these people too far to sound like they're nuts. But some elements of social control, some elements of, well, we literally criminalised the protesters. So we've done that now. Like the animal rights people, like that's been criminalised. But yeah, it's an interesting layer to this layer cake. And if you don't, like, you know, notice this and sort of grasp it, then now's a good time to do so.
He says his sheep lorries will be back at Brightlingsea tomorrow morning.
We are carrying out a legal and legitimate trade. We have a right. We're not asking the police to police the port. We're asking them to give us free access over the Queen's Highway.
He's considering...
you know, I don't have a full Richard Otley history and journalism degree on this. I'm going to show you what I found that supported my video and then talk about something that I wish I could have talked about in the video, this article, which is interesting. But more in the future from other people, please, you know.
Legal action if they fail to...
And if people disagree, that's also good. You know, it's good to have the entire conversation about this and for different people's ideas to be heard and viewed. But I'll tell you what, you all want to be really careful when you're reading comments on YouTube, because there's people out there that work for people making funny fake comments, and there's people out there with fake accounts making funny fake comments, and they're not just as straightforward as you think, you know. So just be careful about parroting the opinion of everyone else in comments. Like, be careful to have your own thoughts and ideas on this and to think deeply and carefully about it before you do.
Increase their numbers and provide safe passage to the port.
Officers were sent to the Essex port this morning to deal with the demonstrators. The police operation was far larger than one earlier this week.
See, now they've sent the police down to deal with them, and the police operation is far larger, and they've got like a system now where they're going to line the streets, they're going to push the people away, the trucks are going to move. Like, you know, Peter Folding made his name in protester removal, and during the early 90s, as we saw from the gold, silver, bronze standards, that was late 80s, I think, the police didn't have actual strategies and plans in place to deal with certain large-scale problems in society, because they hadn't necessarily had to, had they? Like, you've had the miners' strikes, now you're having this, and I wonder what sort of thoughts are going on in government, in policing, about how to police the population, because I would personally hope that if everybody in the town came out and said, we don't want this, instead of the police coming out and fucking shutting them down, they might do the bidding of the people in the town and shut this down. But instead it went the other way. And why is that? Because the people in the town don't make the laws, do they? The other people make the laws, don't they? Like, Richard Otley said he was going to go to the Prime Minister. So, like, when it came to criminalising the protesters, these normal people, in some way, at the time, they weren't committing criminal acts, and they haven't necessarily all been criminalised by that change of law, but those that continued on the animal rights activism did get criminalised. And this sort of behaviour now, like, you can't come out as a town and stop the trucks now because it's criminal.
Protesters had stopped lorries from getting through to the docks. Around 500 demonstrators had gathered outside the entrance to the docks. Some of them sat in the road to try and block the path of the lorries, but this time they faced tougher opposition. And within half an hour they had been cleared out of the way to allow the lorries through.
The lorry loads of live sheep get through. Tonight they're in a ship bound for the continent.
Demonstrators accuse the police of using heavy-handed tactics.
Look at the way they're treating our women and our children. It's unbelievable. And we are actually...
Sorry, I know it's serious business, but I actually find that one really funny. This is a guy in a shell suit with like a flat cap on, like proper from the area and like of the time, and he's like making the point. They just fucking shove him out of the way, don't they?
Demonstrators accuse the police of using heavy-handed tactics.
Look at the way they're treating our women and our children.
The guy just hoys him out of the way. And this is where I wonder, like, would you know a Peter Folding from a policeman if they're dressed in a big coat and they have a helmet on? And, you know, what Peter Folding will try and make you believe is that his protester removal days were all about keeping people safe in a tunnel. But what's this about? You know, and what aspects of protester removal and specialism in that for Huntington Life Sciences did you require? You know,
It's unbelievable, and we are actually...
And I challenge anyone to pick anyone out of that crowd and say, give me your police number, give me your badge number, what's your name, officer, and to end up with any sort of justice in the court system. I'm pretty sure that most of this, like, pretty sure, again, not heavily researched, but most of this stuff went by, didn't it? And like, this man lying on the street didn't necessarily get any justice for being thrown down by some random officer in a big group.
We'll also be looking at the real Brightlingsea, the peaceful coastal town that's suddenly been transformed into a battleground. But first, the animal exporters said they wouldn't be stopped. The protesters said they wouldn't be moved. Well, today the exporters did get their load of 1,600 sheep through the blockade of Brightlingsea.
At the main junction outside...
1,600 sheep, and as we'll see coming in this article, which is pretty interesting, would you trust this man with the sheep? 1,600 sheep. Back then, he said he was making about £1 a head on the sheep. So we're talking about £1,600, £1,600. In today's money, 5-6 grand maybe. But like, that amount of trouble for that amount of money on an industry that has, like, there are other options, you know. Like, we did have slaughterhouses. It might have been slightly less convenient or slightly more expensive, but maybe it's a matter of principle here in some way. But the idea that this cannot, like, it's either animals go on trucks on this ship or fucking nothing, and it must happen. It rings alarm bells to me. It does. You know, no other peace could have been brokered here. And it wasn't always this way until we joined the EU. We didn't always ship these animals in this way. So was this the start of something they didn't want to stop? Or was it going on before we joined the EU and there was some of the way that it was going on? I don't know, but for some reason this cannot stop now, according to Otley. You know, this and the police as well, and all the, you know, the powers that be now. This cannot stop. It must go through. The only reason it ever did stop was because mad cow disease happened, and so everything was banned in Europe. So we couldn't ship. So they stopped it. And then when it started up again, it started up small time and different later on. It didn't, you had the animal rights activists still, but they became criminals, and, you know, things sort of moved on until the king recently banned animal export as part of his King's speech. And that, in my opinion, it only happened a few months before Nicola Bulley went missing. But that might have triggered something, because the king banning it means, well, we can't do it anymore. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that you want me to do this, but I can't do it anymore. What do you want me to do? Earnest Bully might have said. I don't know.
At the police station, officers moved in to drag campaigners out of the way. There was further confrontation just outside the port, as it took the lorries an hour to inch their way there.
Well, the protesters promised to return tomorrow, and the police, the ones caught in the middle of it all, faced allegations of using heavy-handed tactics.
I will say a lot of this is me taking 2 and 2 and making 8, maybe, because I have to fill in some blanks myself and create a narrative that makes everything fit. And that's what I've been trying to do with the Nicola Bulley case for the entire time. And this is the only thing so far I've found that seems to have the pieces all work. Like, everything fits, everything works. And okay, there's some blanks that I have to maybe fill in, and I'm not the sort of person that likes conjecture or you know, ideas to fill in the place of fact, but they do seem to quite happily bridge those gaps. And if only I could find the facts to prove them, I feel like I've got placeholders where I'm looking for proof rather than wild conjecture that could be anything, you know. But of course everyone can have their own opinion on this, yeah.
The end.
Oh, proving audacity, global hypercolour t-shirts. Global hypercolour t-shirts. I'm glad someone's got something interesting to say in chat. Sorry, you're all good in chat, you're all good. But I didn't want to sort of like... It's a hard one, this, because I don't want to make it all like horrible, let's all feel bad. But at the same time, I don't want to make loads of jokes all the way through it. But I couldn't let global hypercolour t-shirts go. Thanks very much for that, yeah.
Of the nighttime curfew on lorries in Brightlingsea. More and more police arrived. There was a noticeable increase in tension.
Look at this.
There was little indication what was to happen as the first sheep lorries appeared at 8 o'clock. Ahead of the lorries were police vehicles and dozens of officers wearing riot helmets. The demonstrators were dismayed at the police presence. People sat down in the road, but the police clearly had a pre-arranged strategy. As you can see, police have cleared this far down to the crossroads.
So how did they get this pre-arranged strategy? Well, I guarantee they sat down in a room and discussed it, yeah? And did they discuss it with the people who are driving the trucks? Well, they damn well should do, because the people who are driving the trucks are going to be involved in the strategy, yeah? Like maybe the people that work high up at the company, like the directors of the company or someone might be in the conversation in that room. Someone else who might be in that room might be someone like, I don't know, Peter Folding. Not himself, maybe himself personally, because I'm not saying he was definitely in that room. But what I am saying is that he wanted to be in the room for the Nicola Bulley conversation, and although he arrived a week late, didn't he? But the idea is that you're going to have a meeting, top-level police, obviously, truck drivers, of course. What about this private company who work alongside the police that live in the very local area, who specialise in protester removal, who are making their name at this time in protester removal? If they're on board and they're involved and they're in the area, then you probably want to talk to the boss from there as well, don't you? Maybe. So that's why I think, like, if I see him on the video, and he's in the longer documentary piece, so these news reports don't catch him on that video as far as I see in these news reports, but the longer documentary piece about it, of course, I've put it in my video, yeah? So seeing him there on the front line dressed in a police uniform like that, in my opinion, wow. Well, now I can connect, now these things make sense, don't they? I could understand why he might be there. I can't understand why they would commit is it a crime to dress him as a policeman, or could he be a special constable? I don't know. But yeah.
There are vans behind me, the lorry's immediately behind them. The protesters are immediately in front of that. The police are clearing the street.
Big ups Big Chris, who's in Asda, pick me up some chocolate soy milk.
They go down, pushing people out of the way by sheer force of numbers. Protesters were simply lifted out of the way, among them young and old local residents and members of animal welfare groups.
Great Bully! Get out of it!
Local protesters.
That's really interesting as well, isn't it? Again, I wonder what Nicola Bulley would do. And to hear the words, "You great bully," spoke by these ladies, just makes me, wonder about what's going on here. And I just wonder again, what this 17-year-old Nicola Bulley living in an adjacent town would think about this.
Lifted out of the way, among them young and old local residents and members of animal welfare groups.
Great Bully! Get out of it!
And of course, a lot of these ladies are on the protest line, and I wonder what Nicola Bulley's mom made of it. This is, it's a community effort, isn't it? So it's hard for these police to police these people, but they've decided, fuck it, like ladies, young people, grab them up, throw them out. Like, it doesn't matter.
Local protesters were shocked and upset and scarcely able to comprehend what they'd seen on the streets of their hometown. This was a very different police operation from the one 2 days ago when the first lorry convoy was turned back.
And could you imagine having a small town community gather in the street like this against any issue, and the police turning up and grabbing hold of you and throwing you out of the road? Like, this is our road. This is our town. We are the people. The mayor's here. We're all here. There's young, old, everyone. Like, what are you doing? Bussing people in and throwing us out of the way. I'd have been incensed. It would have been almost incendiary for the police to be doing this, and I'm surprised by it.
They just picked us up
They've picked us up and thrown us off the road. It's disgusting.
This is a peaceful demonstration just sitting on the road, and I'm absolutely disgusted with the police tactics.
Police said they wore riot helmets because of the stones which had been thrown at them on Monday. But demonstrators said their appearance was intimidating, and they complained bitterly that police officers were heavy-handed and used...
That person was grabbed by their head.
Was intimidating, and they complained...
No, this one here, he's got his arm around the head.
Bitterly that police...
He just throws her down.
Officers were heavy-handed...
That's...
said their appearance was intimidating, and they complained bitterly that police officers were heavy-handed and used unnecessary force. They're walking slowly ahead of the lorries, the convoy of police vans and lorries heading out of town at the moment. People are walking slowly ahead of them. The police are trying to clear the road, but at the moment they're not having much success.
So seeing that, right?
At the moment they're not...
Seeing that as well, there's one other aspect. I'm going to go on to Otley now and read this article about Otley, because he's the guy that's paying for this to happen, I suppose. Well, not paying for all these people in the police uniform to be there, but paying for the lorries to go through. Seeing that, like, the question of whether Peter Folding is a good guy or not, comes up in my mind all the time, because you can decide whether you think he was there or not based on that video evidence of that man that looks exactly like him being there at the time where he's making his name in protester removal in the same area. You can decide that for yourself, but Peter Folding, in no uncertain terms, in other aspects, is on this side of the picket line. Yeah? Like, through the 90s, he's in protester removal. This is the protester removal. Like, you look at this and you think, I'll do that. I'll stand with those people. Other things that police people do. You know, the policeman that got murdered? No, sorry. The one that died. The one that died. What was his name? Do you remember that guy? What's his name? The constable. He's in my video here as well, isn't he? The policeman that... Doody. This policeman. You think about my ideas, slow motion, they may be subject to change. Ideas they are, yeah, subject to change. What's his name, that policeman? Mark, is it Mark Lawson? Mark somebody. Doody. Peter Lawson, that's it. Okay, let's see if I can bang it up like this. Doody-doo. I'm better off just getting out the video wherever the flip it was in my video. What I'm going to say here is he's got a background in protester removal as well. Here he is. Peter Lawson, cop on the Nicola Bulley case, 50, dead. Background in So Peter Lawson, this was what was on the Lancashire Police website before he died. Peter is the national team lead for health, safety and welfare. He began his policing career in Preston and has since served in most areas of the country in a wide variety of uniformed roles. So he started out in Preston, but he's gone around the country in a wide variety of uniformed roles. He's an accredited strategic firearms, public order. Public order is what we were just looking at, isn't it? Protesters, people going on, public order. And multi-agency commander. That's like the fire, the ambulance, the public order. You put that together, what that says to me is that during something like a riot where people are throwing firebombs or stuff like that, you know, this multi-agency aspect comes out. Like if you've got public disorder and you need, like, you know, Film lister says BBC video of the protest at 029 shows Folding. Are you saying the one that I just watched? In the video I just watched? Because I'll check it. Or are you saying there's another BBC video at 029? 5, 6, 7, 8.
They find repugnant.
This video at 029.
The lorry carrying several
That's
hundred...
this lady, so not this video. So I don't know if there's another BBC video that you're referring to. I could try and find it, or if you want to find it and put it on Discord, that's cool. The doody. No, I've got too many windows. Let's close that. That's coffee.com. I'll copy and paste that into chat again. Let's close that. Let's close the haulage. Let's close the freight. That's that picture of all the cases. Very interesting from Twitter today, from Celestial Moonks. Lots of different cases of people disappearing in the river, creating this line across the country. We're going to look at these modern standard. That's Peter Lawson. That's where I'm at, right? So yeah, film strip. I will just quickly search for YouTube, BBC Battle of Brightlingsea, BBC Battle of Brightlingsea. But I didn't find myself a BBC video of it when I was doing the research. So if there is a particular video and you want me to look into it more, like, just let me know in chat where it is, like, and I'll find it. So Peter Lawson, his career involves being involved in this public order aspect, the rioting, the multi-agency commanding, you know, all this stuff that went on in the 90s, these to the 90s to now, this policing strategy has been evolving, let's say that, yeah? And he's been involved in it, yeah? He's involved in the policing of many high-profile events and incidents during his career. So I don't know what high-profile events and incidents during his career, but they involve sporting occasions to protests and large civic and protection events. Now, sporting events, you understand, it's a big football match, there's a big fight, they have the police out. It's difficult because it's multi-agency. You also need ambulances and things, and you need to be able to get people in and out. And you've got the moving of the people, the ground, the buses, stuff like that. Okay, normal. But incidents, are we talking about things like Hillsborough? I hope not. I mean, that was awful for the police. Incidents, are we talking about terror incidents? I don't know. But we've got incidents are listed, high-profile events and incidents, and then protests is listed. Of course, that's what we're talking. That's my focus in a way, and the focus of Peter Folding. But large civic and protection events is interesting to me as well. So we'll get back to protests in a second. Large civic and protection events. What's a large civic protection event? Like, what is protection and who needs it? So if you, for example, had, let's say, Met Police protection for the Royals, for example, the Met Police protection for the Royals, they've got a royalty protection group for protecting the royals, haven't they? And that's police, royal security, for example, yeah? Or like politicians, for politicians. Can't even spell. Big ups, Big Chris. You can't see them. They've got them as well, look. Special police protect. So there's not going to be many civic events that require police protection. I mean, maybe I was going to say Ariana Grande, but it has connection with terrorist events, so I don't want to say that one. Maybe someone famous comes into town and you need to do a civil protection event. But mainly it's going to be royals and politicians, because they're the ones moving around the most in the country that utilise this consistently and have their own literal sections of the police that deal with them. It's very interesting to me that there's this article here that I found, My London. The reasons why some Met Police cars in London are red rather than white. That's interesting, isn't it? Because Peter Folding's vehicles for Specialist Group International are all red, aren't they? SGI red, or SGI Nicola Bulley. Like, if you type that in and look at the images, then you're going to see some pictures of Peter Folding and some red vehicles, aren't you? Look. So if that turns up and it's all red and it says underwater search and recovery, you might think it's the fire department who do, legitimate search and rescue. This is search and recovery, so they just want to find the body. They're not trying to find you alive. They're just into body recovery. That is a red vehicle, but if you're driving it around London and you're in this sort of car, you think, is that the police or is that Peter Folding? I'm confused now, and it's because they have these special cars in London. They're red, and these are the special protection in London. That the specialist, they call them a specialist, special unit, London's diplomatic community, parliamentary estate in Westminster. And of course, Peter Folding on his website, I keep saying it, I did the tweet, it's in my video, it's proven. He took away the Huntington Life Sciences one, but if you want to look at SGI International and their website, I should of course actually, let me Google it, it'll be quicker. I should of course show it you. Specialist Group International. If you look at this, they do all sorts of things. Protester removal is on the list, of course, big one that they do. Body search and protester removal. And they do this list here. So it's all on this list. Well, it all was on this list before he deleted some of it. But Parliament Square's on there. The Palace of Westminster during the Pope's visit to the UK is on there. So I would think the Palace of Westminster during the Pope's visit to the UK would quite probably overlap with this red police group, wouldn't it, around central London, who are the security for London's diplomatic community and the parliamentary estate in Westminster. In fact, that would be exactly their job. So I'm saying Peter Folding would have stood alongside and brought his red vehicles down to join these other red vehicles. I wonder what the police thought of that. Maybe he didn't have red vehicles back then, but he certainly has put it on his website here. You know, so before that gets deleted next. We've got the red vehicles. It's just a silly connection. But what's not a silly connection is that Peter Lawson has a connection with civic and protection events. So is that an overlap with old friend? Our old friend, your old friend, everyone's old friend, I hope he doesn't murder me, Peter Folding. Did he ever meet Peter Folding in his storied career of high-profile events and incidents that involve protests and civic protection events? Because Peter Folding was working in that exact area throughout that exact time, wasn't he? Complete with the tatty red van, yeah. Maybe, I think the tatty red van's a bit of a throw-off. I'll tell you this, I'll shout this out because we're just chatting now, but I'm supposed to be getting on. Next thing is exactly what I promised tonight, which is read through of this article, which is really interesting. It really fucking is. And then the pictures to finish. But I've got a question, right? Tatty red van, yeah? Are you going to kidnap someone and put them in a tatty red van? You are if you're a fucking clown. If you're a proper cretin, you're going to do that. Because when the police chase you in the red van, you're going to be really obvious. You're not going to be able to run away. Criminals don't use tatty red vans. Come on, everyone. Wakey, wakey. Although I did see some red vehicles on the Google search at some farming places in the area. And of course, the Google photographs from top down are from other times. But maybe they keep the vans over a long period of time. By the by, what I'm saying instead is that if you're going to kidnap someone and drive them around, you're going to fly them around in a much quicker, much more discreet car. So you want to be looking for a Volkswagen Golf, GTI, Turbo, Super, whatever, that gets stolen in the local area. And that will happen routinely and regularly. Like those sort of cars, your bad boy racer cars, they're routinely stolen around the country and used in crime or criminal activity, or parked up somewhere and left for a bit until they want to use them, and then they burn them off and bin them off at the end, don't they? Or sell them sell them again. But you can't these days own one of those bad boy racer cars without fear of it being stolen. So that's where they source their vehicles for crimes like that. And if you're going to bundle Nicola Bulley down the pathway for Rowan Water into a car, you're going to bundle into something sleek, black, fast and discreet, like a Volkswagen Golf GTI Turbo something. I'm not a car expert, but I know a mate who is. But yeah, obviously the red van connection does come in with that Peter Folding company and all those red vans and stuff. It does. But there, I would say that could be used for, if I were to use a tatty red van in a crime like this, then I would suggest that it would be used for surveillance, for, carrying a couple of people, dropping them off. Maybe like in the back of the van, you've with his computer screen and his thing on the boat, maybe in the back of the van you've got your computer and your surveillance. You can get these things that can listen, and like maybe you're doing something like that in the back of a tatty red van, but you're probably not kidnapping someone and holding them there, because it would be noisy, it would be indiscreet, and if anyone caught on, it would be obvious and you would get caught because you couldn't be able to run away. Like the point of these vehicles that are used in crimes is that they're very fast and they're very discreet. Even if the police were to chase you in a Golf Mark II GT whatever, you would get away. Like you'd be able to get off down that motorway, off at a junction, back on, round, off and gone. And then by the time they catch up with you, they're just, they're looking for DNA on the car. They're not able to catch you. So that's my opinion on that. Big ups Filmster. I'm keeping up on you. I'm looking out for you. Link in chat. I don't think you're able to put links in my chat. So you'd have to just like describe it where it is, and I'll find it on the internet. Or thank you for the additional donation. Or you can do it in Discord, because links won't appear in my chat because of automatic YouTube thing. So I'll give you a Discord link as well, if you want to send me a link there. Or you could get it to one of the mods and they'll get it to me. But we'll find it. We'll find it. don't stress. And you don't have to keep throwing money at me to get my attention. You can just at me in chat, it will get my attention. But I do appreciate the money from anyone who wants to tip me because, you know, obviously, look, I'm doing some work behind the scenes. So anyway, that's our connection there with Peter Lawson into the same past and history that we're looking at here with, in my opinion, Nicola Bulley's dad. In my opinion, and not Nicola Bulley's dad, but, you know, main player in this Earnest Bully, and in my opinion, main player in this Peter Folding from the past, and now maybe this guy as well. So he's now dead, and I'm not trying to cast, you know, aspersions on his character now he's dead. I'm just asking the question, since he's basically got a career in this aspect of policing, has he overlapped with Peter Folding, who also has a career in this aspect of policing? Because it would be strange if they hadn't, and then it would be strange if they didn't talk about it when Peter Folding turned up on the scene, wouldn't it? Your second car was a Mark II Gold HDI. My mate had one, and they nicked it off his drive. They broke into his house and nicked it off his drive. They're lucky he didn't come down the stairs and catch them in the act as well, because, like, whilst he quite likes his car, he also quite likes his young family. So, like, he would have gone fucking nuts, as most people would. But they're not interested in shit. They just, like, you know, they take your keys, don't they, and they're gone. Yeah, anyway. This is Peter Lawson. I've talked about that, haven't I? So I guess the next thing is to come on to Bully Boy himself, Richard Otley. Did we finish this? We finished this, didn't we? The animal protest, yeah. And would you trust this man with the sheep? So this is a really interesting avenue into thinking about Richard Otley. Into it's an article from. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a picture of Otley up instead of instead of the article, but I'll put the article in, copy and paste it into the description of the video at the end. It'll be in the end. I'll put it in after later. You'll get it in the description later. Because oh, go on then. I'll do it now. Edit. I'll do it now. Edit. Video used. It'll be under the video used. The independent news source there. So I'll read it. It is reading the news. I do critique other people on this, but it's different because I'm bringing it back from way in the past and trying to bring it to life by reading it, rather than just reading you today's news that you could get from any other speak and spell. Okay, so this is Richard Otley. And this is an article from The Independent, Wednesday, 22nd of February. Oh, hello. Wait, where's the thing? Where's the thing? Wait, where's the thing? Oh, no. I hadn't got the thing turned on. I'll tell you why that was, because we were doing... Is it this? No, it can't be, because we were doing Nicola Bulley on... Why didn't it come on? I must have turned it off for some reason. I was going to say because we're doing Nicola Bulley stuff and it's not compassionate, but it's all right today to have that on. I'm going to read it out for you. I'm going to find it and read it out for you. And there was one as well from... do-dee-do-dee-do, do-dee-do-dee-do-dee-do. Got one from Grandmaster Sid as well 2 days ago, who said, Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Grandmaster Sid. Thank you, from a couple of days ago. And Lisa bought me a coffee. And oh no, there was no message. There was no message. So there was just no message. If you do have a message, Lisa, you can now put it in chat and I'll read it out if you want. But yeah, thank you very much, Lisa, for buying me a coffee there. And 3 hugs go your way. There's Richard Otley, the man, the mystery, the myth, the chuffer. And let me tell you, in his words, what was written in 1995 February. I don't know if Richard Otley's still going, you know. I'm not like claiming to be Anne Robinson here. I'm not Jill Dando. I'm not Dill Jindo. Oh, you shouldn't joke about the dead. Richard Otley, Britain's best-known exporter of sheep, lives discreetly in the village of Bythorn, Cambridgeshire. The first indication of his presence is a scratched and battered Range Rover, the same Range Rover that appeared in TV news bulletins last month, being attacked by animal rights protesters at Brightlingsea, Essex. Beyond the Range Rover is a short driveway leading to a porter cabin. Everything seems quiet. Suddenly a man with fears in Take two. Suddenly a man with fear in his eyes is running towards the car, wielding a pickaxe handle. Now cut here. I'm not trying to make my dad sound out to be a nutter, yeah, but he used to be a roofer and runs a roofing company, and like, you know, I've been on the roofs. Pickaxe handles sound menacing. They're just big bits of wood that you can put a pickaxe on the end of, but they're also very handy as weapons if you work in the building industry. So pickaxe handles is something I'm familiar with. Suddenly a man with fear in his eyes is running towards the car wielding a pickaxe handle like a baseball bat. An eager looking Rottweiler follows close behind. There's a moment in which another car looks likely to suffer the fate of the Range Rover before a shouted introduction is made. The man apologises quickly and explains he was expecting an attack from the Animal Liberation Front. This is Richard Otley, who many animal rights protesters would probably like to see locked in a veal crate and dumped in the English Channel. Unlike them, he will have been pleased at the breakdown of EU talks on the regulation of the animal export industry yesterday. Aware of the fury he arouses, Mr. Otley has installed sophisticated security systems, that's in inverted commas. The windows of the porter cabin that serves as his office are coated with thick plastic to make them shatterproof. His house is ringed with security lights. Quote, "We've had to invest in fire extinguishers and there are fire points in every room. The police have even given us an operation name and they do an hourly sweep through the grounds. We've even had to take precautions with the post. We've had one bomb on the doorstep and we're now ready and capable of handling any more the animal welfare groups would like to take. We've got pickaxe handles at the ready and we now have the use of a water cannon if necessary." It's pretty heavy, isn't it? Time out here for me. If you're running a business from your home and you've got sophisticated security systems involving weaponry, what does that sound like to you? I know it's this man and his animal trade, but what does it sound like to you? Do you know anyone else who runs business from their home and has sophisticated security systems and weaponry? Anyone in chat going to guess this one? Well, obviously, you know what I'm talking about. Drug dealing, innit? Like, quite often, even mid-level drug dealers will have like a security gate on their house or CCTV because they've got a big bundle of cash in the, shoebox under the bed. Do you know what I mean? Like you see it on all the telly programs when the police bust in with the thing and then they've got like this second metal frame door so they can't get in, and they've got like bundles of cash. Like they're worried about other drug dealers busting in and taking their money and stuff, aren't they? So, and the mafia, yeah, big ups Dover and Dolly's mom. The mafia as well. The mafia, like organised crime, has a reason to have all this stuff going on in your house. Of course, he's saying it's the animal rights activists, and legitimately it kind of is. But having the police patrolling your grounds might not be good if you're involved in organised crime. That might not be good, unless you're using them to push through your packages without them looking around as to what's in the boxes. Unless maybe some of them are corrupt and involved in it, I don't know. But like, it seems really weird to me that this man has somehow got the police to patrol his grounds for him. He's got his own operation name. They're all definitely on his side. Yeah, the police in the area for his house on his side. They're there like having I'm not saying they're having cups of tea, but you know, they're patrolling his grounds. And when you talk about his grounds, I mean, how big are we talking? Grounds. What areas are the police patrolling? Interesting stuff though, yeah? And it's because they've had a bomb on his doorstep. So any more negativity to him and he gets more police supporting him. But we do know now, after the event, we do know it is taken as a fact, although I would have to research it and present it to you as a fact. So please take this with a pinch of salt and do your own research. But I'm pretty sure that police undercover were installed in the animal rights movement in different places. You know, undercover policing of groups like that takes place. So it's not unknown for... The concept would be someone has like Richard Otley tells us that the animal rights people broke his window, so now we have to police his window for him. But have we guaranteed and proved it was the animal rights people who broke his window, or has he just got a broken window? Like, you know, it's a very delicate ground here, so you have to be very careful. But he's got pickaxe handles at the ready and the use of a water cannon. Richard Otley has been well known to animal rights protesters for several years. This is in 1995, this is written. He was instrumental in setting up the ferry service through Plymouth operated by MT Shipping, one of 3 functioning livestock ferry services in the country. So at this time in 1995, there was 3 ferry services that functioned to do the livestock, and he set up one of them. Yeah, so that's really interesting to me, isn't it? Because you would think that, as I described, they stopped going through the main port, but they went somewhere else. You know, companies doing things, businesses. It's only 3 companies who are doing this, and he owns or set up one of them. Sorry, not owns, set up one of them. So it's actually a smaller group of people doing something quite specific than just big industry, big business would, and big media would sort of just naively let you believe. It's quite a narrow group of people doing something quite specific, actually. It's interesting that. At the close of last year, he also ran shipments of live sheep through King's Lynn in Norfolk. It was in January that he achieved general notoriety. Riding shotgun into Brightlingsea in the cab of a livestock lorry and allegedly sticking 2 fingers up to the crowd, he drove the demonstrators wild with anger. So this news report says in January he rode in the cab and angered the crowd. It doesn't specifically say that was on day 1 of the protest. The next day, as he attempted to do the same, he was reportedly arrested, something he denies. The commanding officer simply said to me, "For the safety of officers, can you stop the confrontation by leaving the cab?" I said, "No problem. In fact, I'm thinking of taking legal action because the police issued a press release which said I'd been arrested, which I hadn't." From that moment on, he's been under the media spotlight. An odd situation for a man involved in a trade where the main players organise themselves quietly and remain as secretive as possible. Stated by Danny Penman, who wrote this for The Independent. The main players organise themselves quietly and remain as secretive as possible, but Otley's managed to get himself on the camera and involved in the big story. Unity Calling saying he was arrested. I'm just reading this article, as I say, so it's, you know, I'm giving you what I found. Giving you what I found, yeah. Mr. Otley has the appearance of a Tory grandee in the making. Aged perhaps 35, with a solid public school and farming background. In fact, he's 27, left school at 16 with a handful of CSEs, and is the son of a country school headmaster. He has been involved with the livestock trade almost all of his working life. So he's saying he looks like a public school person with a farming background, but he's not that. Even though I was saying, like, you know, again, I'm saying the people that go around that look like this, that have the land, that do all that, the real landed gentry, the real ones that do all that, you know, own the agriculture industries and stuff, they exist. He looks like that, but he's just dressed up like that, akin to Peter Folding. I might have made it sound like he actually was that earlier. You know, fair enough. I might still feel that he kind of represents that in some ways in this story, but they're saying in this article that he's not from old money. He's from a more normal background, I suppose. The son of a country school headmaster, at least. Yeah, anyway. So correction from what I said earlier about him representing the landed gentry. If I gave that impression, which I don't know if I totally did, but I hope it... I get things wrong sometimes. He went to New Zealand and worked... Oh, hang on, wait, what's this? He's the son of a country school headmaster. He's been involved with the livestock trade almost all of his working life. At 18, he went to New Zealand and worked as a sheep shearer for about a year and a half. So he's been involved with livestock trade all of his working life, and he went to New Zealand to work as a sheep shearer for a year and a half. When he returned to Cambridgeshire, he began buying and selling sheep. So there's a connection with New Zealand again, isn't it? Like, it's like this echo of Eddie's Final Break suddenly, you know, rings around sometimes, and I'm reminded of the New Zealand connection again. He's now the director of several companies, and of course, buying and selling sheep is a practice that New Zealand must have, just like we do, yeah? He's now the director of several companies. Big ups Filmster, link in Discord. I certainly will get to that in just a second. Is it in... from Filmster. Okay, got it. Thank you very much. I will definitely get to that. Yes, thank you. I'll finish this. We'll watch that, and then we'll look at the old pictures, and then we'll be done for this episode. Cool. He's now the director of several companies. He has a farm of about 150 acres that is essentially a holding pen for sheep in transit, which he chooses not to show to visitors. Do you want the picture again? And I'll carry on reading this. Whee. Let's have a time out for a minute, actually. I just feel I need one. Just my own brain. Are you all good? Are you all having a good time? While I'm on Super Chuffer, accused of talking too much on my own channel where I just talk for a living. Sometimes I do try and keep to the topic. You wouldn't believe it, but I do. And I try and present an episode that is about a thing, and then like from start to finish, so that later on you can go back and watch it and it would make sense, yeah? So hopefully you can see that in the content. And if you're new to Super Chuffer, which I don't think many of you are, but if you are, then, I mean, we have had quite a few new ones recently, then you are subscribed, aren't you? Like, you have pressed that button, yeah? Because it's only a thumb button. Like, obviously press that and hit me the like. That's for free. You don't have to pay for the like. So you might as well throw it out there. You're not like withholding likes on me now, are you? Like, you're not withholding likes. So you get those done. There's also apparently a bell that you might want to click if you get to make sure you're notified. But what I'm going to suggest is that you can go back across any of these lives. Certainly the Thus episodes are very strong. But what I've tried to do is create a system where any of these lives that you go back on, or any of the videos, make sense. So you can go in, you can click one that might be about Homeschool of the Gods, or it might be about anything from this Nicola Bulley. It might be about narcissism there, look, with Steve of the Dead. And you can just click it, and it's a good watch for a couple of hours, podcasty style. The videos vary in length, but again, same principle. It's not just going to be complete random waffle. Theoretically, you should be able to go back and about this streamer who committed suicide, sadly, and stuff like that's really interesting as a series of videos. If you're ever fancied something to watch, you can go back, you can pick out a video here, a live event, whatever, and it makes sense from start to finish as one chapter, one thing. Timeless, you might say. So remember to do that in future when you're feeling bored or whatever. There's a whole load of Super Chuffer content that you might not have had a good look through. So there's some stuff there that you might find interesting. Okay, back to this Chuffer and me reading from the news. Which I'm getting my brain all mixed up now because I've got too many windows. Would you trust this man with a sheep? We've had him go to New Zealand and come back. He's now the director of several companies. He has a farm of about 150 acres that is essentially a holding pen for sheep in transit, which he chooses not to show to visitors. So as a sheep trader, he's got a farm, but it acts as this middleman holding pen. This is back in the 90s. So you could say that, oh, these trucks are only coming from a local farm. They're only going back to a local farm. But where did the sheep come from to get on the farm? Where did he buy them from? His farm is not really a farm. It's called a farm, but it's a massive 150-acre holding pen for sheep that he trades. See how things are different when you look deeper into them. Like, you might have a tweed jacket and you might have nice wellies and drive a Land Rover, but you might not be just a nice farmer with, shepherd and flock and deserve the help of the British people to support your dairy industry because it's dying on its arse. Or like, maybe, there's different people behind these images. Maybe there's different people. Big ups, Bad Gambler. Catch you later. So he's now the director of several companies. He's more than a commodity trader and a farmer. Sorry, it says he is more a commodity trader than a farmer. He buys at markets all over the country and exports about 160,000 sheep a year, mainly to France, where many will be grazed for a while before slaughter and sold as French. After costs, he makes around £1 a head. Big ups, Big Chris. Thank you very much for the super chat. Big ups to your man Taz. Big ups to Taz. He's more than so they're saying he's a commodity trader. Sounds like a drug dealer again. He buys from markets all over the country. And this isn't me slandering and defaming him. This is just me making comment on what things sound like on the news. And it's a normal thing to think. Okay. So, like, he might even be dead now. I don't know. But he buys at markets all over the country. I mean, I'm not saying that he's dead. I don't know. What am I saying? And what I'm saying is 160,000 sheep a year go to France. He makes £1 a head. So £1 a head is not very much for the life of the sheep, is it? Like, I mean, that's not the total profit in the whole system, but he's only making a small amount per sheep. And we saw that one of those lorries was, or that convoy or whatever it was, that was 1,600, wasn't it? It was 1,600, or was it 1,600 we saw from earlier? You can do the math. You can work out how many lorries he sends and how he has to transport lots and lots of sheep to get his monies. Like, it's actually not that profitable. Like, one big convoy, how many convoys are you doing a day? Because you're making, what in today's money we said was about £5,000 in one big shipment, but you're going to have to do a few of them. Like, you're a big numbers game, aren't you? 160,000 sheep a year. And if you're going to get those sheep through, they're not all going to come. Like, how many sheep are there in the British agricultural industry in your local area? So I'm saying they're definitely getting shipped into him and shipped out. And like, he's basically a middleman, and he's got a network of, like, this guy might seem like a farmer who transports sheep to be slaughtered at the end of their process, but actually what he is a middleman with a network, and he's got a network of lorry people that move things around in lorries, and he's got a network of farmers who provide him with livestock, and he, like, for £1 a head, it's all turnover. This chain has to keep moving, otherwise his legitimate income, it disappears quite quick, doesn't it? So, and is that it? Is that what he's doing? £1 a head, 160,000 sheep, so he's making £160,000 a year before costs. Oh, sorry, it says after costs. It says after costs. After costs, so he's making 160 grand a year, basically, off sheep. And is that it? Is that his whole kit and caboodle? That's it? You know, it's a question to ask, isn't it? Are you all right in chat there? Does he hold a monopoly on the market, says John? This was the 90s, and I don't know. No, I do know now, it's going to tell me. There's a group of about 20 live animal exporters that control the trade in this country. Of this group, Mr. Otley is the largest exporter of sheep. They're now involved in a fight with animal welfare groups that Mr. Otley will not back away from. So there were 20 exporters, and he was the largest. I think they've bitten off, this is quotes, I think they've bitten off more than they can chew by picking on the farmers. We're a tough lot. As we've just seen, he's not actually a farmer. He owns a farm and trades in sheep. But you see what I'm saying? We're a tough lot. We're used to hardship, and we're used to being out in all weathers. There will come a time when we won't be pushed around any longer. If the National Farmers Union doesn't do something, then we may have blockades of ports by farmers. We can't let them hold us to ransom because of a 22-mile stretch of water. Certain drivers are carrying shotguns as a matter of routine. Legally carrying them, but they're not there for shooting game. I mean, what's that about? Shotguns? Are we saying the animal protests by normal people getting out in the street and standing in, and that turned into a bit more vigorous protest? Of course, it did get a bit eggy. That whole thing did get eggier, but the fact that it got eggy meant that they could drive around with shotguns. Are we tripping? Like, again, if you take away the sheep bit, then you sound very much like the fucking Sopranos or something. Like, in fact, the Sopranos did it all through waste management, didn't they? But they would, do you know what I'm saying? Like, this seems like really, like, am I just being naive and creating fantasy to say that this could be linked with some other kind of criminal behaviour? Because they're driving around with shotguns. Oh, and this guy, remember as well, I think, to be honest, he might not even be Mr. Big. Like, he might not be Mr. Biggest or the one, but he might be involved in this, like, as, and this was the 90s, but he's somebody who has constructed a network. When that network broke down, he would not accept that it would stop. It had to keep going. And he's driving around with shotguns, or they are anyway. They were then. In Britain, in 1995, isn't that sad? I would say that 90% have a hunk of wood on board. I ask him if he thinks there's any cruelty in the trade. A lot of people try, and this is quotes again, a lot of people try and transpose their views onto the animals. I think there have been some very isolated incidents. Obviously, whatever you do on a large scale, you're going to trip up sooner or later. It's not in our interest to overcrowd lorries and cause cruelty. Is there cruelty in sending 54 people skiing if they're all crammed in coach first? Is there cruelty in sending 54 people skiing if they're all crammed in a coach first? But skiers choose to travel that way. We're not talking about skiing, we're talking about the transportation. And the people on board don't actually have room to lie down. Livestock have room to lie down. I mean, obviously, they're not going skiing, are they? The livestock trucks I've seen haven't got enough room for animals to lie down, I tell him. And he replies, that's because the animals choose to sleep on their feet. Mr. Otley was fined £7,000 for causing unnecessary service to a consignment of sheep last year. Sorry. Mr. Otley was fined £7,000 for causing unnecessary suffering to a consignment of sheep last year. On appeal, the fine was reduced to £3,000. He obtained the usual health certificates for the shipment in December 1993, but had the sheep sheared afterwards. Trading Standards officers said in court that given the weather, they expected 20% of the animals to die before the journey was completed. I mean, he knows what he's doing here, yeah? He knows what he's doing with that. I'm just going to put that back up. Like, this is not me making it up. It says it in this article. I believe shearing the sheep would have meant they were physically smaller so you could cram more in. Expecting 20% to die can't be good for them, can it? If you're trying to sell them, that can't be good. But the shearing of them and then transporting in the trucks mean they're freezing. Like, you've just given them that haircut and then they put them in the truck. It's awful behaviour. And he definitely did it. He was fined for it, but he managed to get the fine down. Interesting, he was able to obtain the usual health certificates for the shipment. So what we're saying there is, despite having broken the rules and sheared them, he got the certificates anyway. And to get those certificates, who are you looking at? A company that deals in the trading of the certificates, aren't you? You need someone to give you some certificates, even though you're not really, shouldn't really have the certificates. Someone you might call a fixer. And that goes, I'm not, you know, don't get cross here, but we looked at Earnest Bully's company earlier and questioned what sort of company that could be and whether he could potentially fulfill that role of fixer currently to that industry. Not illegally, but legitimately providing certificates to things as a freight, because his company's a freight company, but it's listed as this other services and stuff. So, you know, maybe that falls under that bracket. But somewhere, Mr. Otley was able to obtain the usual health certificates. And it gets talked about in this article, and it was fact because it was part of his conviction for, sorry, his fine for causing unnecessary suffering. So it's in there. Where did he get those certificates? Trading Standards officers said in court that given the weather, they expected 20% of the animals to die before the journey was completed. I ask him if he thinks animals have rights. It doesn't work like that, says Otley. You can't meddle with the human food chain. It's been set up and accepted. A small minority are ramming vegetarian down the majority's throats. Where do you draw the line? Do you apply it to rats? When this country was rat infested years ago, would these people have tried to stop them killing rats? We have to stop people using fly spray? Not a very good argument, but an argument. So he's saying it's about the people ramming vegetarian down their throats, but you cannot meddle with the human food chain. What did I say at the start? What we've been talking about today? That's my point, is that this food chain is actually I call it an economy of shame. Essentially, the food chain, the economy of shame, is about rearing animals, putting them in trucks, moving them around, murdering them, putting them in packages, putting that in trucks, put it in the supermarket, and you can eat the dead animals. That's what he's talking about, and you can't fuck with that according to Otley. It's been set up and accepted. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I shall lie down in green pastures. Thy rod and thy staff shall comfort me. You shall anoint my head. I shall be on the table before my enemies. My cup shall runneth over. Has the death of Jill Phipps... No, I can't get my words. It's a bad time to not get my words. Has the death of Jill Phipps... She's the lady that tragically was crushed under the truck, Coventry Airport. Similar animal protest. Has the death of Jill Phipps... Has the death of Jill Phipps shaken his determination to carry on with the trade? Quote... Obviously, everybody in the industry has been saddened by the loss of life, but it was bound to happen. She can blame nobody else but herself for that. Fucking hell. Fuck it. They ran her over with the truck. I mean, is that what we're doing now? They ran her over with the truck, and he's saying, I mean, wow. Obviously, everybody in the industry has been saddened by the loss of life, but it was bound to happen. She can blame nobody else but herself for that. The argument has gone away from whether it's right or wrong to ship animals. It's now whether the Animal Liberation Front can bust the live exporters of the industry. The answer to that is no. Interesting language as well about bust. Whether the Animal Liberation Front can bust them. Back in the day, I would have loved to have known what I know now and be able to go back there and say, hey, what if they're doing other things behind the scenes as well? Maybe they could go to prison based on the drug trade if they're doing that. And two birds with one stone sort of thing. But obviously the animal people were just focused on the animal stuff, I think. However, I do also wonder if I'd have said that back then, whether the police might not have come and got me and killed me, because it seems like they were going alongside and like the police were helping the trucks to get across, and that makes you question whether the police knew what was going on or whether they were complicit in some way, and whether the private company doing the job of the policing, like Peter Folding, might be really handy to somebody that was creating these networks and stuff like that. You know, it's all about that layer cake, isn't it? Anyway, the answer to whether the Animal Liberation Front can bust the live exporters is no, and it was no, because they criminalised the Animal Liberation Front and said, while you're allowed to protest things, if you repeatedly protest somebody that's involved in the food chain, or the animal export chain, the food chain, then you, or other adjacent industries. So if you go and repeatedly target someone who's interested in breeding puppies and taking them to be tested on, like, in labs. So if you know someone who's breeding puppies and they take them to go and be tested on in labs, and you want to protest that, you can only do it once, because the repeated doing of it is causing harassment. And you're harassing people who are very important, because they're protected by a special law. They're in the food chain, they're in this production of the animal stuff, they're protected. You are now a criminal and you can go to prison. And they did. That's what they did to the Animal Liberation Front people, is they turned them into criminals and they put them in prison. They broke this down. But in 1995, the quote continues, but if they do win, every time we get thrown out of a port, this is really important. So don't go anywhere here. This is really important. This is the words of this man, Otley.
Hasn't. He says his sheep lorries will be back at Brightlingsea tomorrow morning.
We are carrying out a legal and legitimate trade. We have a right. We're not asking the police to police the port. We're asking them to give us free access over the Queen's Highway.
We're not asking police to police the port. We're not asking the police to police the port. What's in the lorries, what's going on the vans, what's going in the ships. We don't want the police to police the port. We want to make sure we can get free access on the highway. And Richard Otley in this article says, every time we get thrown out of a port, we're looking for somewhere else. If it comes to the crunch, we'll buy a port. You could probably buy Brightlingsea for under $1 million. You will only need a dozen exporters to club together and throw in £200,000 or £300,000. I would say the majority of the exporters would have that cash in hand. We certainly would. Wales would be ideal. You wouldn't have any opposition because the Welsh farmers would stamp on them. But if you go down to the south coast, they're all such self-righteous, pompous, middle-class prats. They think the country owes them a living. How can we lose? The only way we can lose is financially, and we're still making money. But it's difficult. The EU has already said, we already have a compensation claim case. They're also breaking free trade rules. If they want to unilaterally stop us using a Welsh port, then we'll have a real serious case. I'll just sit back and draw the money. I'll be entitled to, and do nothing. If the protesters do win on the British mainland, which they didn't, Richard Otley says he'll look further afield for a source of sheep. The Falklands would be ideal. The Falklands are part of the EU, and there's an awful lot of sheep down there. Okay, words of Richard Otley in this article, right? And I'm going to bring it together and point it out, and then we'll look at the pictures from the past. I'll remind you of this wonderful tweet that I saw earlier. I don't want to look stupid later on, but if this is true, and these places, Station Road, Bangor-on-Wyre, Wrexham, St Michael's-on-Wyre, Preston, Norwich Cathedral, the River LN, Thetford, Ironbridge, Telford, and Gipping Stowmarket, if those places are all places that people have recently disappeared in the river as Celestial Moonk puts it. I put in all the locations that people have gone missing in around rivers recently. Tell me why it's all concentrated in one straight line. It looks like a transport line, doesn't it? Like things coming in the ports over here, things going out over there. I've already linking this area. This is what we're talking about today, is this area. I've already linked that whole area with the past of Earnest Bully, Peter Folding. Now Richard Otley is a character in this. That's why he's one of the Bully boys today. And then this area, of course, Nicola Bulley. Okay. But this is incredible stuff. So Richard Otley says that he is prepared to buy a port. If it comes to the crunch, we will buy a port. You could probably buy Brightlingsea for under $1 million. You'll only need a dozen exporters to club together. A dozen exporters, he says? Like, you can reread this as drug dealing so easily. So I hope I'm not, like, in the realms of slander and libel here, because I'm not saying that Richard Otley's an international drug dealer. I'm saying this sounds like, and I'm not the work of a fantasist either, you just add in this extra thing, or exporting, or whatever it is. Oh, you keep getting unsubscribed, Jan. Well, check, everyone, make sure if you want to see the bell to check that you're subscribed and hit the bell, yeah. But isn't it strange that, like, you could overlay the conversation that people would have about drug dealing, and you could, instead of exporters, you could say dealers or whatever, couldn't you? Well, exporters, like a man looking to buy a port, so that unpoliced, in his own words, not looking to have the police police the port.
We'll be back at Brightlingsea tomorrow morning.
We are carrying out a legal and legitimate trade. We have a right. We're not asking the police to police the port.
We're not asking the police to police the port.
We're asking them to give us free access over the Queen's Highway.
Free access over the highway. Ensure the trucks get through. It's interesting to me, that. It's really interesting, because then you could say, as I'm saying now, that you could buy or he said it in the article, you could buy a port for under $1 million. Obviously, Brightlingsea is no good because this is going on, but he said Wales would be ideal. The only way you can lose is financially, but you'd still make money. It's a group of exporters who potentially want to buy a port. And then following on from that, he suggests the Falklands would be an ideal place to source sheep. So maybe he's not doing so in the 1995 conversation right there, but the Falklands would be an ideal place to source sheep. Now, we all know of the Falklands. Well, maybe we don't, but I was a Falklands baby, my mother likes to tell me, born during the time of the conflict of the Falklands. The war used to rage all over the world. Well, it still does, doesn't it? Wars rage all over the world. That's never ceased, because we need to sell weaponry, because the money from our public money needs to go into buying bombs to send abroad, so that the people who own the big companies that make weaponry and bombs, or who have got shares in it, or who've got friends in the Conservative Party, can all get rich. Because my public taxes this year have gone to bombing in Ukraine and Russia, and do we still bomb Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq? I don't think we do bomb them, do we? But a lot of my public money has gone to blow up some Russian tanks this year, so that will keep the homeless fed and sort out the border problems, won't it? But we do want Ukraine to be protected, of course, so I'm glad that I spend my public money bombing the Russians. Anyway, look, the war that was going on back then, the Falklands, this is over here, look, the Falklands, because during Margaret Thatcher's time in prime ministerialship, the Falklands, there was a war, you call it a war, wouldn't you, or was it a scuffle? Big ups Cornflower, £10 super chat. A big drugs bust in 2017 by Lancashire Police. Blackpool, 2 men with surnames were arrested and have the same 2 surnames as 2 men in the Nicola Bulley case. A coincidence maybe, or maybe not. I haven't looked into it deeply. Interesting super chat. Thank you. I'd be caution everyone about 2 and 2 making 8, but as I said today, we're putting lots of things in place, and then some things seem to really fall into place. So if you look into it and it fits, maybe it fits, we'll look into it. Red Fan, thank you for the gifted super chat for memberships. Andrasta Wolf, Colette, Ellie Cat, and Kelly, classic member group. You're all in the group members. You can find that members content. You can have a good look at that. Thank you very much, Red Fan. It's interesting to me that the Falkland Islands are mentioned here by this importer-exporter of sheep, because we fought a war to make sure we controlled these islands, of course, in the 80s. Who do we fight it against? Argentina. So don't cry for me, Argentina, but get the fuck out of the Falklands. They're ours, yeah? Like, Argentina connected to all these countries, right? In the 1990s, it wasn't going through the same economic problem that it's going through now, but in terms of a place that you want to source your sheep from, this couldn't be closer to the mainland drug deal capital of the world and the place where all the big drugs come from and get shipped out across the world, could it? Like, this is the continent, South America, like Colombia, like places like that, Peru. They call it Peruvian marching powder, don't they? Like, this is where all the cocaine comes from. So if you want to start sourcing sheep from the Falklands as part of your operation, there's another connection. It's just even closer to there. But I'm also saying that if you run, I don't know, a pharmaceutical company, then you do get shipments come from all of these places. The shipping lanes, bear in mind, come from this area of the world, and they go up and over and in, like that, up and over and in, don't they? They don't all just go to Africa because it's closest. Like, they ship from South America to mainland Europe, like that, up and over and in, like across the Atlantic, like that. And they come through to Europe, and they do come through to here. Like, they literally do cruise up there, past Wales and into Blackpool. Why do you think Liverpool exists? It's a massive dock. It's a massive port town. Same with Bristol, Cardiff area here. You can come up here and dock your boats, but that's why Liverpool exists, isn't it? So the idea that the drugs trade comes from South America across to the UK this direction, that's quite normal. That's part of it for years, isn't it? Like, people might assume that drugs also come from this part of the world, and some do. You know, a lot of heroin comes from this part of the world, doesn't it? And it's interesting, we're going to look in the future about the connection with gin and juniper berries, and the fact that sort of massive amounts of brown powder that looks like juniper berries, which is juniper berries, powdered juniper berries, comes from this part of the world and is shipped into our country this way. But that's a different conversation. What else is exported with the sheep, doesn't it? Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And how would you police the export of drug trade? Like, you know, we've all seen it on the telly when they're doing their scans on stuff, and they're like, they will put drugs in anything. Like, they will put drugs, they'll make a canoe out of drugs and you could fucking paddle it across the thing. Like, they will put drugs in anything, won't they? So some things are harder to spot and easier to spot. I'm not an expert on that, but I'm thinking, in my thinking, that what is it that is causing this link between these people, this seemingly darker conspiracy? Like, why would someone turn up dead? Why would Earnest Bully's daughter turn up dead? And why would Peter Folding turn up while she's missing and hasn't necessarily been, like, you know, turned up dead yet? And why would the family be so quiet, and, you know, and all this stuff? And these things seem to come to my mind. So yeah, we've got that. So they're the links. That's Richard Otley. That's a deeper look into the links that I've alluded to in the Nicola Bulley case solved. At the end, I put my own conjecture in. You know, I think, and I say, it's a team effort, and we've got to find more, and we've got to do more digging. And I think it goes back to these times. And I think even if people disagree with me, that's fine. I'm not unhappy about people disagreeing with me. I would rather they talked about it all, understood what I'm saying, and gave legitimate and reasonable grounds as to why they disagreed, rather than just saying, oh, I don't think so. But, you know, that's the video, and this is supporting content. There will be more supporting content. Next things, you know, I've got to finish the IOPC report. Tonight we're going to finish on some pictures, 56 pictures from the protest line. So eyes open, peeled, and see if you can spot anyone in them. Yeah, we've still got, I'm going to do an episode on gin in some way. I've got to finish the IOPC report. You know, we've got a few different things that are Nicola Bulley adjacent, supportive content to the video that I've made, and further investigation. And I've got some other things that are interesting that I want to talk about that are not Nicola Bulley related at all. And watch out if anyone does a body language apology in public, because I'll be watching that. There's obviously the main players and characters in the Nicola Bulley situation are going to continue to operate into the future. It seems for some they will not let it go, doesn't it? It seems for some. Obviously, us on social media, we're going to keep looking for the truth. And that, not just me, but other people, it will just keep happening. That's social media. I believe the powers that be today can't use the same techniques as they used to control the narrative in the media. They've lost control, and they think naively that by creating a few secret accounts and, you know, stuff like that, or whatever it is they're doing, they think that's working. It's not, because people are just not that stupid, and they just are connected. So you're not shutting down the internet, and you're not shutting down people's intelligence. Absolutely, BBC and Discord. Right, we'll do that now. Yeah, we'll do that now. Good shout. Good shout. Copy and paste that into here now. We'll do that now, because I don't want to forget. Good shout. Suggested by Filmster in chat today. Are you new in chat today, Film Lister? But BBC Rewind, Brightlingsea hit by live animal export protests. And what I'll do is, like, you can probably make it full screen, but it will mess up my screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly get Firefox and make it bigger for you, because we're looking for a face. So where's my Firefox? My best ever Firefox. There it is. And I'll just make it bigger for you. Of course it won't be 1080p, but I will put the link to this in chat if you want to check it yourself, and I will also put the link in the description of this video right now. Doody doody doo doo. Wrong button. Alt. Copy. Thank you. Save. Thank you very much. So the link's in the description, so you've got that, and I popped it in chat, and then I'll make it bigger for you. Do doody 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 doo doody doody doo, and we'll look at it. BBC Rewind.
In what has become a daily routine now
Lovely, I didn't find this. BBC Archive, January 1995.
in Brightlingsea, around 300 protesters slowed the lorry load.
And this is interesting, the fact that it's a routine and it becomes a regular occurrence. And I think the people who did the lorries and all that thought that people would just go back to homes, like, haven't you got jobs to do? And that people would just stop. But actually, people are not prepared to just stop because it's become routine. And I think that they believe that, you know, I'm not trying to sound like some psyop pusher or anything like that, but let's be real. You know, let's be real. There are people that don't have your best interests at heart, that are there stealing the public money, and they think of you as idiot sheep, and they can push you around and tell you a load of nonsense and you'll believe it. So, I mean, that is really going on, yeah? So I think that by normalising things, there's a process called hyper-normalisation, where you sort of accept that something that's fucking horrific is now normal. But I think most people are capable of waking up from that, you know. Being woke isn't all just about being a leftist nutter. It's actually being awake and alive and aware of what's going on around you. And I believe if anyone's interested to try and learn the toolkit to doing that, it's all grounded in sociology, psychology, and you can find the really interesting, like, go and have a look at the sociology curriculum, or go and have a look at like some social psychology books, and the names that come up and the ideas that come up. Stanley Cohen, what's his name that I like as well? He's a bit political, isn't he? But Noam Chomsky, you know, people like that. People have been looking into this and thinking about this for a while. So there are a lot of really good ideas out there that can help us to see through some of the construction of the media, essentially. Because it is all just construction, isn't it? It's all just stories. It's all just pictures and words. Unless they're going to point a camera CCTV style and say, make up your own mind. It all does. And what we all do is we create narratives and stories so that we can understand the world. That's how we operate as humans. So without that structure, things are just random occurrences. But you can take the same facts and things, and you can reframe them and create different stories. So we've got to be careful not to have that done around us without being aware of it, I think.
Of sheep down to a funeral pace for the last mile and a half through the town to the dock. At one point, a vet and RSPCA inspector were called in when the demonstrators reported seeing a sheep lying on the floor of one of the lorries. The protesters allowed the lorry carrying the sick sheep to leave the convoy so the animal could be treated. The shipment of live animals from Brightlingsea is due to go on for...
I was going to say, when do you want me to pause it? But I think I spotted him there, yeah. We're saying that dude, aren't we? Yeah, I see. Hello. Hello. The badge on the helmet is Essex Police, 3 scimitars across a red background. I'm blowing up a small picture, so number of pixels here. We're going to be, it's going to be difficult because the number of pixels sort of thing, and whether I get to slow it down frame by frame on here or not. 0.5 speed. Okay, let's see what I've got here.
Live animals from Bright.
I mean, it looks similar. It looks similar.
Brightlingsea is due to go
In that frame, it looks a lot like him.
on for 6 months.
And then it's gone. It's very hard to say. You see, what I'd be careful of, right? That looks like it could, but then in that frame there, maybe not, yeah? So I'm going to say it's a good spot and people can make up their own minds. But what I'd be careful of is what I've seen happening recently. I think people are now keen to see things. They're keen to find Eddie. They're keen to find Peter in this. So maybe there's a bunch of people who are looking into it and are keen to find it. And if we keep putting forward people who we think are and are not verifiably, or have that element of doubt in, the more doubt that gets thrown out in this case, the better for the people who are trying to hide. So maybe, I'm going to say maybe there.
To go on.
As it moves, other people might say maybe not. So what I do is a piece of evidence like that, which could be maybe not. I ignore it. I leave it aside because I want the solid evidence that's really convincing, like the video of him here side by side. Where is he? Give me the side by side, Scotty Hottie. Anyway, this video. In this video, to me, there is basically no doubt, yeah? So, what is happening? Someone else thought... this is not you in chat here, film lister. This is not necessarily you that I'm popping at here, yeah? So don't feel bad. I thought that was an interesting catch, and it could well be him. I want to watch the rest of that video as well, so we're going to come back to that in just a second. But what I'd caution generally about is someone else sent me something and suggested it was actually I saw it somewhere else on YouTube, didn't I, that someone else was sent something suggesting it was Eddie, and it didn't look like Eddie. And what happens is that I've got 2 really clear photographs that really clearly, that's fucking Peter Folton, yeah? Not just photograph, bit of video, and in my opinion, and the Earnest Bully one as well, right? But if you start putting up 5 or 6 that could be, couldn't be, might be, might not be, then people see a whole load of things and they say, well, majority of these things are things that might be, might not be. Maybe this one's also might be, might not be, and it muddies the water slightly. So I would stick to things that are very, very clear and very, very, no one can say it's not. And for me, that's as far as I would say with that. I mean, if you want to argue it's not, based on whether he should be wearing a police uniform or not, okay. Based on whether he should have one of those helmets on or not, okay. But based on whether his face looks exactly the same or not, I don't know. So, and height, well, the cameras come up to this character and he's about the same sort of, a lot of these officers here in this group, as they walk past, and it's not a big shot of them, but there's ladies and there's other people, maybe this is not the, in my opinion, if you're going to be bussing in a group of people to bolster police numbers, then you've got your frontline riot police who you're going to be utilising for your frontline riot police, and there's not enough of them. You need police to arrest people on the day and to put them in the van and stuff like that. There's not enough of them. You need a load of people dressed as police uniforms to add to the numbers for not on the line grabbing and doing, but for lining up, standing in front of and stuff like that, okay? And providing this sense of overpowering numbers to the public. There's so many of us, you can't beat us. So you draft in all the people. Some of these people might not be who you would consider to be frontline. There's a shorter lady here. Maybe she wouldn't have been originally in the 90s put in the front line of protesting, for some reason or whatever. Maybe these are the sort of second, or the reservists, as Peter with his territorial army experience will know. You can have reserve people, can't you? So maybe the other people around him are short. I don't know. Maybe this isn't the top group of headbusters, but they're that's the next video that we're going to watch as well. We're going to go through that on Super Chuffer, that documentary that he is in here, in my opinion. But you know, I worry that by going through all these videos and finding people who 50% look like people or could look like people, and it's very difficult to say it, like the more of that happens, the more it becomes like Madeleine McCann's phantoms and smoke screens. And I'm going to personally just stick to ones that really, I'm going to say, to me, if you asked me to put my money on it, like, but this is a good shout and a good spot, and it looks very similar, so I'm not going to say it's not as well. But the problem I have is that if I put it forward as, if I make a sort of case and put that in my case and it feels flimsy, like flimsy evidence undermines my case, doesn't it? So I think that there's a movement amongst people, there's a movement of misinformation and disinformation. There are people out there who are confused, and there are people out there who are deliberately trying to confuse people. And Peter Folding has told us categorically in his interview with Luke, in his question and answer session, that he has an ex-policeman friend who works on his behalf on Twitter to work against his trolls. So that's social media on Twitter working against trolls. I don't know if he means they're getting their addresses and they're hacking them and getting their IPs, or if they're posting stuff under fake accounts. If they're working on social media on Twitter and they're an ex-policeman that Peter Folding knows, they're probably not going to have their Twitter account saying, "Hi, I'm an ex-policeman that Peter Folding knows," are they? Like, it's probably going to look like something different. So I question what is going on behind the scenes and the misinformation campaign coming from that group of people, or maybe just Peter himself. So I would suggest that if I were Peter, one of the things I would do to try and muddy this water is on social media and nameless accounts, suggest to content creators like myself that I've seen Peter in a video, and there's Peter again, and this is Peter. And then you've got like me and X, Y, Z other content creators suggesting they've seen people in the videos, and the viewers and the audience go, well, these content creators see anything. It's like pareidolia. They see faces in clouds. Whereas if you've just got some very clear spots, and if it is a clear spot and you see Eddie in this and it's clear, or if that is Peter, and to people, maybe we do a straw poll and we say to people like, how clearly is this Peter? How many frames do we get? How clear do you think it is? If everyone agrees, then we use it as evidence. But if not, we sort of don't focus on it too carefully, because it might be a tactic of the other side to create disinformation. So we need to be careful about these things. But I agree with you that it looks like Peter, and I think with a few more frames and a little more focus on it, and maybe because this has been presented to me in a small picture, so it's hard for me to can I make it full screen? I can embed it. I don't know if I can make it full screen. So like, that's my problem, is like literally number of pixels that make up the face, and my ability to be certain, it makes it difficult. But I agree with you. If I'd have seen that, I'd have thought, is that Peter? And then I'd have had that difficult conversation with myself.
Mums. We're not going to give in. We're going to stay and see it out to the end, aren't we?
We don't want to. However long it takes, we'll be out here every day.
None of us really want to get up and come out this hour in the morning, but I think we are getting somewhere. We've made an impression on the whole world, haven't we?
It took 4 hours for the lorries to reach the dock today.
Love it. I love it. Okay. Thanks for suggesting this to me. This was going to come in the pictures later, but this is good to have it now. That's a truck. It's red. It says M.E. Edwards and Sons, and it says Welsh Farm, Canary Powys, or something. Like, those in the audience will know that can read Welsh better than me. That's Welsh. That truck's Welsh. So am I saying that truck has come from Wales? I mean, we just heard Richard Otley telling us in that article that he would prefer to be shipping them from Wales, because Welsh farmers are he thinks Welsh farmers are good and stamp on anyone else. So have they driven the truck from Wales? Does the truck belong in Wales? Has it been loaned to them for this reason? Like, a normal person might suggest these trucks have come from Wales. Yeah. So that's a really good spot to have that in there as well, because it was argued that maybe all the trucks came from local area, because Richard Otley had that holding farm where he would say all the trucks are coming from this local farm. So it's local export, local farm. So, for political reasons, that could be argued. But actually, like, he was getting around that in France by saying the animals have been grazing in France for a certain amount of time, so now they're French. Like, there's certain rules you can get around by saying these animals have been left on my farm for 24 hours. Now they're my animals and they're local animals, you know. So it proves here to us that at least the trucks have come from Wales.
Reached the dock today.
Some of them.
The procession was disrupting for the town and distressing for the animals. The police say such a long, slow protest can't be allowed to happen tomorrow.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Steve R, not convinced on this theory. Which theory? Like the whole general thing about it. I mean, there's some things that are facts. So I don't know which part of the theory, like the connection to drugs maybe you're not convinced on. The facts of whether Peter Folding was there in that image, and to me, it's video evidence. The facts about Nicola Bulley's dad and his connection to the animal agriculture shipping industry, well, tenuous as it may be, being the director of a freight company and being pictured, in my opinion, driving a truck filled with animals across a protest line, a picket line. I mean, that's my problem. Is I think people can have their own, like, I don't mind whatever opinions people want to have about it, but there should be opinions about the facts, shouldn't they? So if you want to contest that, that's okay. But then I guess that's where we differ, and I just guess that's where we differ. John Main, Emma found Peter, she called him. It was Emma's testimony in the interview that she had found, like, we can go back over the interview, but essentially, to paraphrase, she'd found him online and she had been searching the internet and found him and asked him to come in. But, you know, so what? Like, could it easily have been that Peter Folding rang up and said, "Hey, Ernie, I'm coming up. Remember me? Like, things have gone to shit. I'm coming up." I mean, is it possible that the people that took Nicola, like an organised group of people with connections and methods and stuff, could they have also, like, Peter Folding runs a company with a load of ex-servicemen and coppers, ex-coppers who have vehicles, who, you know, have vehicles and go around doing, like, they could be organised to do something like that, couldn't they? Maybe he could even been holding her and putting pressure on Ernie in some way. Turned up on the scene. "I'll give her back if you do this." "Oh no, you didn't do it." "Right, well, I've discovered her now. I've got her on sonar." Like, do you know? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that for fact. I'm saying could this, could that, could this. We're having a chat. Yeah, at this point, that's not me doing slander and libel or anything. That's me having a chat. But it's the sort of ideas that I'm alluding to. And I think if you dig deeper in this case, like I said, I think it's the Earnest Bully case, and it's got to do with his connections to, ultimately, you know, people like Richard Otley. Like, he might just be a total above board, not criminal businessman, yeah, but only by merit of the law just slightly being on his side. If you criminalise animal export, he's suddenly a criminal. Instead, we criminalise the protesting of the animal export, so the protesters were criminal. This goes back to something that you'll find on Super Chuffer. This is a really good episode to support what we're talking about here as well. Like, supportive content, when I talk about that, I don't just mean helping me to prove my point. I mean content that talks about the whole concept. Because the Nicola Bulley case is a great example of this. It's not just that you can say, right, let's go to the bench. Let's examine the bench 1,000,000 times on YouTube, and then we'll get to the bottom of the case. It's not how things work. Big ups, Chris. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. It's to understand crime and cases like this, it's history, it's lives, it's connections, you know, it's society. Like, there's all these deeper layers, and like criminology and study of criminology and psychology and stuff, it all overlaps, and like understanding the depth of it allows you to finally come to some of the truth, I guess, in most cases, unless it's just a random occurrence or, you know, something kicked off. But proper, like, you know, proper crime. So if you look at the live and crime, this is something that's really important, and we started on it on Thus, and we were going to go deeper into it in the future. We did an episode, actually a better way of finding it is go to podcasts, go to Thus, and whoops.
I've got some goals myself to
Stop
push.
doing that. View the full podcast. It'll be on here. We did What is Crime? What is Crime? It's one of our earlier episodes, me and Steve. 3 hours of What is Crime. Let me just check it. No, it's different.
There's certain different aspects of it, I guess, aren't there? There's the bit where they decide what's going to be a crime and what's not. And that can range from anything from something someone's doing on their computer at home to something someone's doing in the street with
This is one of the early episodes of me and Steve, so I'll link this in chat as well. Copy that. I'll pop it in chat. I mean, don't go there now. Listen to me now. Or we're nearly finished. We're going to watch those pictures, and then so maybe you want to watch it after. But What is Crime is a great episode, because what we're talking about is how crime is defined by our institutions. So as human beings, there is no crime as such. Like, I can punch you in the face on a desert island and it's meaningless. I mean, obviously I'm not going to punch you in the face. I don't want to incite violence. But you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. There is no police. There is nothing. There's just our decision about what's right and wrong. And then the minute you put a criminal system, a police force, a judiciary, a set of laws, you have to decide what's going to be a crime and what's going to be in that book. And you decide that as people through the government. So you change it over time. So something that is a crime now wasn't a crime 10 years ago and could not, like, you know, things change. And so the criminalization of something, when you talk about, let's say, for example, smoking marijuana, like, it's a big debate in America, and the decision to decriminalize it is very political insofar as you can arrest a load of young black people for smoking marijuana because that social stratosphere of deprivation in certain social areas might lead to more drug use. And if you say, right, they're all smoking it, we're going to make that a crime. We're not going to be racist against young black people, but now that's a crime and they're all doing it, so we can arrest them all. Like, that shit sort of thing is a conversation that is about, do you know what I'm saying? So, like, the criminalisation of the working classes by criminalising things the working classes do out of response to provocation from the ruling classes, that's Marxist ideas. But the whole concept, that's what this is all wrapped up in. We've done a full and extensive 3-hour conversation, an episode about it called What is Crime with Stephen the Dead, forensic psychologist. So I'm really pleased with that as a piece of media. Check it out on Thus. But that's what we're talking about here as well. Going back to what we're talking about here is the Richard Otley is doing something which the society says is bad. Now that could be punching someone in the face. It's not punching someone. I'm not getting violent. But it could be something bad. So we could get together and decide that's a crime, couldn't we? We could say we need a new law for this. Let's say no one had ever shipped a sheep in a box before. Before Richard Otley thought of it, no one had ever exported livestock. Let's imagine that. Someone comes along and says, hey, this guy's, he's putting them across on the boats. Well, it's not illegal. No, it's not, is it? A bit like legal highs and spice and stuff like that. It's not illegal. Well, it's not illegal, no, but we didn't know we were going to have to make it illegal because it didn't exist. Now it exists. What are we going to do about it? All the people came out in the streets here and said, we don't want this to happen. They all came out and said, this is bad, I don't want this to happen. So what should have happened is we should have criminalised the practice that people think is bad. But instead we criminalised these people for coming out and saying it. So that's how we dealt with it. It's about what is a crime and how to create a crime and therefore a criminal. And what is not a crime, and who is above a crime, and who gets away with a crime. And then if you're talking about those things, obviously we're talking about them philosophically here, through the process of animal export. Animal export was not criminal, although some aspects of it could be criminal, or at least prosecutable or finable or whatever. There are grey areas here, aren't there? You're not allowed to do certain things with the animals. You're not allowed to tread over certain lines. And certainly you're not allowed to drive the truck at 100 miles an hour, because that's a crime, isn't it? Or is it not a crime, it's a traffic offence? Or, you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you've got all these things that, like, that's our society. So that's what, in my opinion, drives and fueled the decision for somebody to go in there and grab Nicola Bulley off a routine dog walk as some sort of threat, or hold her to ransom against her father, because I think he seems to be wrapped up in this whole world of this stuff. I've said it 3 times tonight, so I'm not going to keep saying it, but that's my opinion. That's how I think I've come to terms with all of the pieces in the Nicola Bulley case needing to fit into place. That's why Paul Ansell won't say what he thinks, really, although he might know more than we let on. That's why, for example, if Penny turns up at the bench and grabs a phone, oh, this is a phone I found, there's a dog I found, I'm going to find out whose this is, and then someone says, that's that Ernie Bully's daughter's phone, that's Ernie Bully's daughter's phone, you're like, fuck, whoa. Something's happened to Ernie Bully's daughter. I'm not going to touch this. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Like, that could happen, couldn't it, if someone's got a reputation in the area? So that's how pieces fall into place for me. Maybe I'm a fantasist. I don't think I am. Big ups Kelly, Super Chuffer, have you heard of him? Heard of who? Me? Heard of me? I've heard of me. I haven't heard of anyone else. I just know me. Right, let's look at these pictures as promised. There's 56 of them, and that's going to conclude today's episode. Keep your eyes out. This one got stretched. A lot of them get stretched for some reason to fit into this frame. But keep your eyes out for anyone on the Nicola Bulley scene in today, 2023, that is also on the scene back then, like including members of her family, her herself, Eddie's final break maybe, I don't know. Or you put in a name in chat that I'm supposed to name, Derek Clayton. Off the top of my head, don't know what that is, so off the top of my head, no. Brightlingsea live exports demo. These are pictures, yeah. I see what you're saying in chat there, Big Chris, yeah. You know, I will also, for anyone that, you know, needs to hear it or wants to hear it, I will not poo-poo the idea that there is this other layer to this, that someone who is criminal, bear this in mind, someone who is into criminal enterprise, that is prepared to engage in the animal export or even animal, I want to call it torture, abuse, you know, the economy of shame, the idea that these animals are used for, someone has to breed the puppies to sell to Huntingdon Life Sciences. You know, maybe they don't use puppies anymore, maybe they use llamas, I don't know. Somebody has to breed the animals to sell to Huntingdon Life Sciences. They have to be accredited by the government. Not anymore, Huntington's in America now, but back then, and still, GlaxoSmithKline will test on animals and they will request that they are government accredited, ACCCA or whatever they are, breeders of animals, and they will need to be put in boxes, cars, crates, whatever, and shipped in to the laboratory so they can be put in crates and tested on. And if someone's prepared to do that, or is prepared to be involved in that, then there is probably no low. You know, why not get involved in any other illicit trade? Why not? You know, if you've got a big crate that you used to ship around veal crates in, you know, why would you be above putting young children in there? I don't know why you would. You'd have got no morals or ethics, have you? So I don't know what, you know, it's not beyond the realms of thought, is it? No, the main farmer exporter, Roger Mills. Okay, yeah, there's someone else to talk about. I think he was in court, wasn't he, over this? Today's episode is about Otley, and I'm framing this conversation and his character. And, you know, I'm not going to ever get to know every character in this whole thing unless I make it my next 10-year project to relearn and retell the exact story of the Battle of Brightlingsea and ongoing animal protests, which in a way I'd love to do, but I'd need a bigger team. And it might come out of some of the films that we make this year, with Steve, with other people going around and stuff. But for now, I'll agree, there's another name on the list I'd like to look into. But no, I don't know. And that's where I'd, again, ask the community. You know, I appeal to the community. If you've got ideas and thoughts, maybe, you know, and you've got Google and things to look at, you know, you can also bring these to the fore. And I can just watch your video on my stream and go, that was good, instead of having to do everything, which I don't think I can. Bless, but yeah, I really appreciate that, whoever that is, Roger Mills. I will have to look into it. I'm going to put it on a notepad somewhere quickly now. There you go. Thanks. Next picture, load of people. Did you spot anyone? Do you know what's funny is they used to do these black and white pictures in the media. And this wouldn't have originally been a black and white photograph. It's quite possible this photograph would have been taken in colour, but to make it look more historical, they then present them in black and white later on. That's true, the media does that, to make things look like they are the past, and to give them more class, like it's like a choice. But from the colour balance in it, it makes me think it wasn't originally black and white. Same with this. She's not happy. Good shot, good photograph. Again, it's a very normal person that you might see on, you know, all these protests. You'll see the repeat theme that it's just normal people. They're not, and so they should be. Could you imagine you live in one of these little flats in, you know, a nice little town, and you're this nice lady, and then this comes past your door 3 times a day? Like, you would be incensed at just the principle. Ban the cruelty, stop this sick trade. I love it when people turn up to protests with signs they've made themselves, and you can tell it they've made themselves. It's interesting when you see these days at rallies, you'll see a lot of very professional looking signs and you'll think, oh, you're good at making a sign. Or you might think, who gave you that sign? But the ones that people make themselves, they're the ones they really mean. Big ups, John. You're good, but you're not on our level. You might, you know, everyone's got something they can contribute to this conversation. I'm not some special clever chuffer, and little ideas make big, you know, like it only takes one match to make, sorry, it only takes one tree to make 1,000 matches. It only takes one match to burn 1,000 trees. Yeah, that's an anthem that I want to, like, obviously I can't play it on the stream now, but in the schoolyard, in the gardens, turn around. Said it was him, said it was me, said it was him, and he taught Uncle Steve, and he even taught me. It only takes one tree to make 1,000 matches. Only takes one match to burn 1,000 trees. Yeah. I'm not going to spot anyone in that, but it's interesting in that the first, like this kill the bill sign, they still use that today. Kill the bill, the phrase. Like that was what was being used back then about this. The protest movement has its roots in the animal rights movement. In the UK, as like they used to, what they used to be like. You'll know this from the miners' strikes. None of you, half of you, less than half of you. But in the miners' strikes, it wasn't just the miners who were on strike. Like the miners were on strike, so everybody else that was involved in a union like was in sympathy. So if you were an animal rights protester, you will turn up and stand with the miners. And like if people need to protest against the power, you know, then we will turn up. And we will be there with you, alongside you. And that, to an extent, goes on today, but not as much. But you still see it today, insofar as the recent Gaza protests, the Free Gaza protests. There were a lot of different groups turning up to the Free Gaza protests, to the point where people ridiculed them. LGBT people in support of Gaza, you can't do that. In Gaza, they wouldn't allow LGBT people. Yeah, but in the UK, we allow Gazans and LGBT PQ people, and we allow everything, and we're here to fight for liberation of people who are oppressed. Thank you very much. Liberation of people who are oppressed. So we will fight and stand with those who are trodden down by the boot of oppression. And it's interesting, I will say this overtly on this stream, it's interesting that there are other channels that would try and pretend to you that they're there alongside you and they're just like you and they know what life's like for you. Very relatable. Such a nice guy. But they want to be standing with the boots on. They stand with people like Peter Folding. They want the big house. They will crush your face under their boot to get it and pretend to you that they're lovely, nice people while they do it. Because secretly, or not so secretly, overtly, they have in their heart a plan to be better than you. They think they're better than you. They want more than you. So turkeys voting for Christmas. Big up Scouse Mouse. Where did we hear that? Exactly. Toot horn if you care, says this child in their little picture, black and white picture. I don't recognise anyone there apart from the dude in the wheelchair from the news piece. But again, if anyone's watching this and you see someone you recognise, do put it in the comments and we'll get to looking at it. You know, eagle-eyed as I try to be, I can't see anyone I recognise there. Candles as a vigil and loads of police, and you'll notice that this image looks much more like the colour photography that you're used to, because it probably was taken in colour like back then. Like I say, it wasn't all black and white because it's the past. Like this is Tilly. She was an instrumental force in this. She was a local person who got very involved and you know, a bit of a ringleader. Tilly, very, very principled and would not back down. Obviously, I think she's dead now, isn't she? But, yeah, big respect, Tilly. These are the police forcibly removing Tilly. I think what this is nails in an item of clothing. And I think what this is, you might think, oh, that looks very dangerous. Yeah, I think what they were doing is trying to pierce the tyres of the trucks. So they would, like, stuff a bag full of nails under the truck's tyres as it went past and it would pop the tyres. These are some children holding candles. People in the streets, black and white again, hard to see who's what, but people in the streets. That again looks very dangerous, doesn't it? But I'm guessing that's just to try and pop tyres. I don't think anyone's trying to hurt anyone with this. these ladies, and again, the images are just stretched randomly for this, I don't know why, but they appear to be casting flowers into the sea, I guess. Like, very much gesture politics. And there were some big moments of gesture politics during this, when a member of the Brookside cast came down to support them and went and spoke on it's in the documentary we'll watch on this channel in the future. So yeah. Upset lady. People under a truck. The actual cattle. She's... Someone's touching her head. I don't... People and police lined up against each other. This is not an ideal situation, is it? The people and the police like abutting head to head like this. The normal, standard, everyday people and the police. It's like this whole Brightlingsea thing. I'm quite realistically, what should have, in my mind, I mean, I see the world how it is, yeah, but I would have liked to have thought this would have alerted people to the idea that the police shouldn't be pushing you around because you're the people, and that when the police went heavy-handed on this, instead of everyone just accepting it, I mean, what was I in 1995, like young teenager, so what was I aware of in this? But I'm surprised more people from London didn't just turn up and say, hey, we're not having you push the people of Brightlingsea around, police. You're supposed to be working on their behalf. Stop it. Like, us as a nation accept this. And not only do we accept it, it goes now to 2015 criminalising them, and to 2023 criminalising protests. All right, we should be against this. Oh, that policeman's having a bad day. This is a protester in a costume. There's Tilly again. There's Tilly. And this guy was quite instrumental in it. I think these are some quite, high up people in the local community group. Lady with a sign, a homemade sign. I do prefer the homemade signs, but this one's very difficult to read. I think the thing about it is it's an image that's drawn by her child, maybe. I think the local children in the local schools were all a bit affected by this as well. Another policeman having a bad day. Load of policemen outside a truck, lining up outside a truck, looking for Peter Fording. Like I said, I don't know how Peter Fording would have been deployed in this case, but he certainly seemed to be in that video walking in that big group, didn't he? There's one of the ladies who's got a damaged leg. That's a cow. Poor cow. This is the man in the wheelchair that tipped himself out. So I wonder if he's still about and whether it's possible to get an interview with him one day. All animals feel pain. This schoolgirl has as a sign. Bless her. Bless her little cotton socks. And it totally makes me wonder as well, like I said, Nicola Bulley being 17 at this time. Oh, what a coincidence. There was a Tilly who was a friend of Nicola Bulley's, wasn't there? Or at least someone who, was talking on Facebook. I never verified who she was. Good point, though. Yeah, another coincidence. Tilly was a warrior, yeah. It makes me emotional just thinking about it. This aspect of it, though, like being your local community and seeing it go on and being children, like you're innocent and sort of naive to some of that layer cake. So you just see the animals and the pain and you just think this is wrong, yeah? Tilly Ann, you're right. I did an episode called Tilly Ann Speaks Out where I covered some of the stuff she said. I can't remember what she fucking said now, but I think I critiqued one aspect of it, which is who the fuck is Tilly Ann. But I had to get an artificial intelligence mock-up of who artificial intelligence thought she would look like as the thumbnail. Anyway, it's on this channel. Brightlingsea live exports demo. Kids, I'm saying what changes in these young people's lives as they grow up is being faced with this. This would have been quite the moment for a young school child. This would be quite the thing. Like, it would seem like the whole world is talking about this, wouldn't it? It would seem like everything around you is going a bit wild, and you would seem to have quite naive but honest and sensitive opinions about it. So I wonder how these young people grew and developed after this, and whether they themselves took up further protests against animal export or mistreatment, whether it raised the profile of something like veganism or vegetarianism amongst them. I wonder how many of them wanted to go home and eat their, you know, dead cow dinner. I don't know. Big ups, Bad Gambler, thank you. Hopefully nothing's going to come to anything big and serious. We just want to, like, for me, I just want to go into this more deeply in research on streams, which I'm going to do, and then maybe get to people with the camera, hear them talk on camera, tell me the stories, and make a little bit of a documentary, you know, to bring to you on this channel as a step up in content at some point this year. I'd just like to do that. I'd have to pull my finger out a bit. But as we said, we're in no rush because Steve's recovering from a back operation. He's doing well. His recovery's going well. And as he recovers and is able to do more, I want to do that stuff together. I think he'd make a really good presenter, interesting voice, and also his opinion on things. And, you know, from everything from the edit to the script will be important to me. So whilst my plans this year, I expected to be trying to get to a 10,000 subs this year, and thankfully in some way I'm so grateful that happened a year early in my plan, so I'm not stressed about trying to push from 10,000 to 20,000. That's what I want to do this year, 10 to 20. I'm not stressed about it though. I think we take the step up in the content. I talk about it a lot. That's where the tippies go. I've got the kit, I've got the gear, I've got the idea, I've got no fear, and once Steve's back's ready, we'll be here. So it's going to be a good new year. Yeah. And that, other plans, other ideas, other stories as well. It's not just only the Nicola Bulley channel. You know, it's criminology, psychology, sociology, the way people think, feel and behave, thus on tour, meeting people, telling stories. It's going to be great. Help, they say. Pictures of the animals. I don't spot Nicola Bulley there, but some people there upset by it all. It's a good shot, that is. I think she's spoiling frame a little bit, but that's that lorry from earlier, Emmy Edwards and Son, Welsh Farm. I'm glad we saw it on the video earlier now, because that proves that it is part of it. And, you know, Welsh Farm, Powys, I'm not dissing the farm in Powys or anything. I'm saying that it's most likely that truck is driven from Wales. These people are holding a vigil, a sort of funeral for the animals, so you can't see any of their faces. Interesting here. What defines the difference? I've not seen these photos. I'm just speaking to you as I see them, but this is interesting to me. What defines the difference between a policeman and a protester? Look. Peter Fording likes that high-vis jacket, doesn't he? Image is quite important. But without that scarf and those piercings, you know, give her a different hat. What defines the difference? Well, I'll tell you what defines the difference is your heart and your morals, and which side of the line you want to stand on, and where you see the line being drawn. Sometimes you question people. This is not me being facetious here, but, you know, how did the Nazis put people? If I was in Germany, I wouldn't have put people in the gas chamber. Well, you know, you might have just done what you were told, because if you then go and study the social studies of Stanley Milgram, who lived in America after the war, and studied how people are pushed to do things. People will do some quite extraordinary things. That's an episode that me and Steve will talk about in the future. You know, you give someone a hat, you give someone a badge and an instruction, and you'd be surprised about what they would actually do. So it might not be that these police people are the worst people in the world either. As I say, what defines the difference between a protester and a police person? Which side of the line you're on, and how far you're willing to push those allegiances. So maybe not all the police are bad. And I'll tell you what, maybe through this investigation, we might even encounter some police people who are willing to come forward and say, hey, I was there at that time. I didn't like it. You know, in retrospect, it didn't all go particularly well, and my ethics were compromised, but I had to do my job. There's that vigil again, but now it's black and white. You see, they just black and white the pictures to make them look more effective for the media. That's a very funnily... You don't want to comedically stretch the picture of the wheelchair dude on the floor, do you? Because it makes it look even more comedic. It's not comedic. He threw himself out the wheelchair on the floor in front of the truck. I'm not going to spot anyone in that. It's like a rave. Again, big noddy hats on, proper riot police walking down Brightlingsea High Street. I don't think Peter Folding's in this frontline group of headbreakers necessarily. I think he's in the reservist group drafted in to bolster numbers. That truck's going through it. Another truck going through it. And bear in mind, these protests did happen over a long period of time, like months. Like this thing was going on for months. So there are night and day shots, and it's not always this is on the first day, that's on the second day. But on those newsreels I showed you earlier, I think it was reporting from the first night, the second day. So that's why I'm pretty sure about those. But Super Chuffer, 20k subs. I've only got 10k subs. I ain't got 20. I better not have just suddenly got 20. That would be freaking weird. Let me just check. 10k subs, yeah. But I'm aiming for 20 this year. That's what I'm aiming for. I'd like to double that number. You know, anything above that, great. 50, 100, they're for future targets. But if I can double that number this year, I'll be really pleased. If it goes well, 50k would be great as well. You know, it's going to take a bit of work. Sitting here and talking about this same old subject ain't going to cut it. Getting Steve back on is going to be a great boon to me. And the main thing is what we can create together that's that extra level. And it's not just having a camera, I'll tell you that. It's not just having a nice camera and a nice lens. That's only part of it. But I'm really looking forward to going on that journey with your support. So thank you very much. I've saved up the money from the tippies this last year so that I can do it this year. So I'm really grateful for that. Really, really grateful. Why have I lost my pictures? Here they are. Yeah. Arresting. Are we arresting? No, we're helping someone with the medical people. Helping someone who's been hurt. And it's a nice lady who's been hurt, which is sad. Does that look like Louise? Does that look like Louise Bully? Sorry, I'm joking there. A bunch of people outdoors. They've got torches. They're having a nighttime vigil. Again, you're seeing people from all aspects of the community. Children. Families. There's a lot of compassionate ladies there I'm seeing as well. And there's a lot of men too, but family affair, isn't it? That's Tilly wearing the sod off. There was a rule put in place by the police that you couldn't shout at them. This is something that's actually been part of the recent protest bill. They wanted to put it into law. It got shot down in the House of Lords, but they wanted to put it into law that you couldn't create a certain level of noise, i.e. bring speakers to a protest. And that would stop the people at the front doing the, hello, welcome to the protest. We are here today to talk about thing. You wouldn't be allowed to do that anymore. Speakers too noisy. During this protest, the police said, if you shout at us, we will arrest you, I think. And that's why she decided to say, right, I'm not going to make any more noise. And she put that on her mouth, sod off, like she's making a point. Again, it's sort of gesture politics in a way, but it's a very interesting and it's those sort of gestures that make these photographs that stand out, isn't it? How's Steve's recovery going? Brilliantly, fantastically. He's able to do half an hour on that being said every now and then at the moment. So, like, the problem, of course, sitting at the computer screen with a bad back operation with a fused spine and learning to walk again, like, you know, there's a bit of rehabilitation to do there, and I want him going on trains and, you know, staying in hotels and walking around the streets doing bits to camera, so there's a bit more to be done, but yeah, he's going good and I'm not rushing it and I'm not stressed. I'm just really grateful that he was able to go through that process. Like, we have such wonderful institutions that are being eroded, like the NHS, like the police. You know, I'm not against the police here, remember this. I'm talking about all this, but I'm not against the concept of having the police. I'm against the political powers that push them to do things that are not in the interests of the people. Like, you know, we're so lucky, so lucky, but we need to make sure we don't lose sight of what we're lucky for having so that we get ungrateful and forget about it. You know, and that's the NHS and that's also policing. So big ups, Joe Boy. How are you doing? This is a picture of the protest again, young people again. I'm not seeing a Nicola Bulley there, but like, she would have been about 17. More protest. That's what these photos are, of course, so there's going to be a few of them. Young people. Again, it's like I get a real sense that it's a bunch of compassionate ladies who are sort of driving this, you know, bringing the kids in, bring them along. I suppose if you're going on a protest, you've got to bring the kids, haven't you? Because what else are you going to do? But like, this local community spirit as well. You know, this local community spirit. I'm seeing some badges on them. I wonder if there are particular groups that I'm not aware of, like Women's Institute or Animal Liberation or something. But a lady just like this was run over in a truck by a truck in Coventry Airport and murdered, wasn't she? Oh, sorry, she died. Murder's the wrong word legally. This lady's holding a piece of newspaper. This is interesting again. She's holding a piece of newspaper and it says, "Oliver, I'll sell my port. I've had enough," says owner. And like the concept that you could buy a port in the UK and not encourage the police to police it and just be like, "Thanks very much, I own the port now. I'm not going to have any trouble getting my shipments across." That's so weird to me. But that's on the front of the newspaper and she's holding that up. So the man that run the port was fed up of it and he wants no more of it. And that's the main thing. That's what protest did, isn't it? It changed the smooth, easy and secretive not underground, but secretive operations into public, exposed, contentious issues. Yeah. So they're the pictures. We've done a good stream. Say thank you to everyone in chat. I'm going to say thank you to you. I've said it a number of times. Thank you. Say thanks to each other. Say, good evening to each other. I might jump on Twitch later and do some messing about. There's also, if you're watching Super Chuffer and you didn't know, if you don't know, better get to know. On this button here, you can join the membership. And with that, you can watch these other members' extra streams. So you can watch them. There will be more. They're not streams, all of them. Some of them are videos, but you can watch them. There will be more. And if you go to home here on this channel you're watching and go to down here, there's other channels. So if you want to watch me reacting to Neighbours or the Cook Report from the 90s, then go and watch that there. It's loads of fun. I'm going to be doing more of it, I promise. It's a month behind, but I'm going to be doing more of it, I promise. Also, I've got another channel or two. I've got Battery Exhausted, which is a B-side channel. And we talk about other people on the internet, nutters. Lolcows, which is an internet terminology for people who are figures of ridicule on the internet. So that's Battery Exhausted. That exists. You can go and watch it and enjoy it. That's there. It's just people who are figures of ridicule on the internet. My opinions. It used to be a scrapbook channel for me, and it's become what it's become. So it's common internet social commentary, you could call it. And then on top of that, shilling for myself a little bit here because I don't work for anyone else, so I only shill for me, is Ganji Impact Super Chuffer plays. And this is me playing video games. Not everyone's going to be interested in that, but sometimes you just want to chill. And sometimes you just want to watch somebody just playing an interesting video game. It's a bit like a long film. Sometimes they come in parts. Sometimes they're Genshin Impact. Sometimes they're indie games. They're bits of fun. Like, you like fun, so you would enjoy that. You chuffer. Some of them are great just to put on when you want to go to nunites and chillax. So Super Chuffer Plays is another of my channels. It's okay to have multiple strings to my bow or plates that I'm spinning. It's quite fun for me. It keeps me interested in lots of different things. So hopefully there's something to interest you in the media offering that I offer for free on the internet. Thank you. And I'm really grateful. Thank you, Big Chris, for a £2 super chat. For all of you to be here, to watching it, that's the main bit. So if you're not able to contribute financially and you think, sharing the video is as much help as a super chat. So thank you for doing that. I notice that the videos get shared and I'm very grateful. If you've got a Facebook page or or whatever, and you share these things on there, I really appreciate it. If you've got a friend who thinks like you, who might want to watch this, I'm grateful for you for that sharing, because sharing is caring, isn't it? And well, it's not just about slogans, but really, there's two sides to the coin, aren't there? There's and we talked a bit politically today. There's politics involved, maybe, but I think sharing, helping each other, rings around the world like that. The right wing, the sort of Peter Folding angle, the privatisation, the Conservatives, the Andrew Tates of this world, they're not of the same opinion. And sometimes it seems to come down to something as clear as night and day, as clear as wrong and right. And sometimes the things that seem like they're as clear as night and day and as clear as wrong and right are not. Referring again to this Psalm 23. A lot of people thought that, 23 is a big important number in the Nicola Bulley case. And maybe it is just like the Masons or something. I don't know. Maybe they read this in another way and think of you as the sheep and that they're the lords and the shepherds. But, be careful. Be careful of people. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Be careful of wolves in sheep's clothing, I'd say. To sum up this point, I guess. And that's really what I've got for you today. It's about the history, it's about the past, it's about the supporting context, and hopefully it's interesting to people. And I'm going to do more. There'll be more. So I'm feeling good. I'm not planning to throw myself in a river. You've said happy thank you to everyone, have you? You all good with each other in chat. I'm going to end today's episode. I'm very, very happy with what we've done today. I think we've done a good job, and I keep saying there will be more. I feel like I'm not done, because this is not a one video thing. It's not an endless video every 2 videos a day because I've got nothing to say, but I'm going to just talk some shit because I want people to watch my channel 2 videos a day. Let's talk about the case. Let's talk about the case. Let's talk about the case. It's not that either, but it's a deep. I think layer cake is the best analogy that we've been using in chat recently. It's a deep and interesting layer cake. So sometimes you need to take some time to savor the different flavors. We're going to have to get through it bite by bite. Yeah. In my opinion. In my opinion. That can be my slogan now, can't it? In my opinion. You're all saying tonight, I might jump on Twitch. It's only 10 o'clock, so I might jump on Twitch for a bit of a razz about with my games and just a chit chat. You never know, I might end up reacting to neighbours all night and uploading them all to the YouTube. Hooray! So you be good, my little podcast. And the religion thing as well, let me be clear, people have got lots of different beliefs. I appreciate that. I believe in a sense of spirituality, yes. Good and evil, bad and good and bad. And I hope one day I go to heaven, so I'm on the side of the good. I do believe in that sort of stuff. I'm not strict on the old organised religion, the old organised religion. And I think sometimes things like this could be twisted against you. It's twisting the words you've heard spoken, the truth you've heard spoken by knaves to make a trap for fools. And I think that's something we need to be careful about in the Nicola Bulley case. The truth we've heard spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. So be careful of that. But overall, you're amongst good people here, so you be good, my little puckos. And if you can't be good, you know what the answer to that is, don't you? I have to try and time this so I don't cut it off. If you can't be good, big up Snips. Thank you for the little 149 cheeky super chat at the end there with the doggy, little doggy. Bless. We love animals, don't we? We should do. We are them. We are them. You be good, my little puckos, and if you can't be good, you're naughtis.